On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt will sit down with Tim and Max from Jazzwares to talk about the Micro Galaxy Squadron line that is Collector's Abuzz. After the interview, he'll be joined by young Nick to rank the shorts from the second season of Star Wars Visions to spark a little fan debate. They'll also riff on some recent comments from Dave Filoni and Tony Gilroy on their future Star Wars projects to cover some no-duh type of reveals. Of course, the show will end with the question of the week and the latest round of featured Star Wars artists. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey now, everybody, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Star Wars Time Show. And if you are here live on YouTube, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show, you're probably seeing something a little bit different than you're used to on a Tuesday evening. And that's because this week, for the first time in 23, we've got some special guests. And based on the chat going on right now, I have a feeling some of you know who these guests are. So just in case you're not on the live stream, let me introduce our friends from Jazzwares. We've got Max Lux and Tim. I probably should have asked how to properly pronounce your name before we went live, but is it Tim Bungaroth?
That's right. You did it. You got it on one take.
All right.
Wait, Tim, I didn't know we were on Wolfman Jack's radio show with that intro. That was pretty damn good.
You like that? No, we don't mess around here in the Star Wars Time Show. So welcome again, gentlemen. I'm glad to have you here. Obviously, like I said, we've got people chatting left and right. So you two seem to have a little bit of juice, as they say in the industry, and it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Star Wars Time Show, we're shepherds of the toy community over on Instagram. So, you know, we get to see the buzz, we hear the talk, we see the toy photography. Do you know toy photography exists? Have you seen what some of these artists are doing with the Micro Galaxy Squadron series that you all have been putting out? So that's who typically watches this show. So that's probably why we're getting a little more heat today in terms of the chat. So
I mean, the creativity that the line has inspired in people has been just like next to nothing I've seen before. Like as soon as the line came out, we had people doing these insane artistic shots, and I was like, wow, how can I just get them to keep doing this? And they just kept doing it on their own. Like, it's just like providing a canvas for them to kind of go nuts on has been an absolute honor and dream. Like, it's like, and I think I'm allowed to say this, but like the number of fan photos that have appeared in just like company decks and stuff like that when we're doing pitch meetings to show the breadth and just how people really have become fans of the line, like every other slide, guys.
It's incredible to see. One of the ones, Max, that I just saw was the Munilus 10 lat.
Nostalgic Adam? Yeah, Nostalgic Adam
with the fireworks. I mean, that was incredible. And for me, you know, I was a big fan of toys growing up, and then, you know, I got involved in theater, and I stopped being a collector as much, but getting back into it, especially in this new age of social media, what's so great about it is this sort of photography community, and people can share, and now all these characters and these vehicles are so detailed, and everything's just getting better and better, and the cameras are getting better and better. So the ability for us to share all this cool stuff with one another is an awesome experience.
The cameras are getting better and better.
True.
Hey, it's not the gear. It's the person behind the gear. That's what we tend to say in the photography community. But no, you guys are, I mean, really, toy photography, it kind of became a big thing 2015, 2016, and it's just gotten more and more advanced, more deep, more artistic. Um,
What
I
was the
it,
impetus for it, like jumping off? Because
it
that's
was
interesting that you can peg it to a time period.
it was black. It was Star Wars Black Series figures, and as we were talking earlier, Funko Pops had a big effect on toy photography. But also 1/6 scale. You know, a lot of people with the hot toys and the higher end collectibles. But for me, it was Funko Pops, and then I saw the Black Series, and as you said, I mean, the stuff, some of the practical effects that these artists can produce with these toys just make them not look like toys. And especially with your line and the miniatures and the way they can use it with forced perspective with larger figures. We see a lot of your ships showing up in the backgrounds of shots where you might have a 12-inch figure, 6-inch figure. So the community has embraced Jazzwares in the micro galaxy like none other I've seen over the past 7 years at this point in time.
That means a lot, and I mean, this is also coming from, like, we're the same company that did the Halo figures, the Spartan collection, and that's another one I see people still going nuts for toy photography for that, for like even now, like years after its launch.
And Max, I think another great point about why I think our series is probably connecting with photographers is that this has been Max's mission from day one, is that it's our authentic scale.
Yeah.
So much of what the line is built on is making sure those vehicles and those ships are the right sizes to each other. And I don't think we've really had that as a community in the way that Micro Galaxy Squadron is put together. So in that way, it's perfect for photography because they really look correct together.
Right, because you're not, I mean, if you're talking building a ship at 1/6 scale, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think the Mandalorian or the Mandalorian Naboo has like a 6-foot wingspan to scale to a 12-inch Din Djarin. So you are right. And like I said, I've seen a lot of your product in mixed scales where, especially with the ships. I mean, there's some awesome shots out there, Clone Wars era with your lats. They got them in the back on, coat racks before they wipe them in post. And it just makes the action pop. So were you expecting this line to get gobbled up the way it has?
No. I'll be frank. I mean, we severely underestimated how many fans were going to really, well, one, I mean, I always talk about this of Star Wars being it's a multi-generational property, and I know that's always said about Star Wars, but I think just right now the convergence of fandoms and how they're being serviced by the licensor is, sorry, that's interesting to speak, but like there's so many generations coming together at once, right? You've got the OG fans, right? The OG fans who grew up 70s, 80s, the fans who got in during the Power of the Force era, like Tim and I, the fans who really jumped on in the prequel era, and then that subset of people who really got into it during the Clone Wars era, the OG Clone Wars era. Then you have the Clone Wars television series, then you have the sequel trilogy, and now you have the Disney Plus / kind of all-in multi-generational Disney Plus era of fans who are just kind of coming into it. So there's so many fans of so many different ages that you come to this and you're looking, okay, we're developing a line. We want to make sure that we have the A-tier evergreen classic vehicles like the X-Wing and Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and the regular TIE Fighter. But I know there's also fans of the 2003 Clone Wars micro series. I know there's fans of the Clone Wars animated. I know there's fans of Book of Boba Fett and current content. And are we going to be able to service all those fans at once? And we surprisingly were.
Yeah, I was going to say it worked.
In that we went as broad as possible in the selection of product. I mean, even from Wave 1, you have the Genovix, you're the first ever Genovix Starfighter toy. Like, to have that in the mix really showed collectors and fans and kids everywhere what we were trying to do with the line. So, but, that's a gamble, right? I mean, I was fortunate to work with a team who kind of believed the vision, and again, also Lucasfilm. Can't forget Lucasfilm, our collaborators there. Like, they saw our initial line plan, they saw the Genovix on there, they didn't bat an eye. They were like, all right, cool, include it.
How much input do they get then, Max? I mean, do they get final approval? Do you pitch series to them and they can say yes or no?
Yeah, and so what we do is they're great. They're collaborators. they give us information about what's coming down the pipeline, and they give us information on what anniversaries are coming up, what key marketing beats there's going to be. So we do get guidelines in terms of what's going to be hot from okay, we're going to put a marketing push behind Return of the Jedi for the 40th anniversary. So make sure you have your 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi vehicles in there. Of course, we're gonna execute against that, but it's also something where that guidance plus what we feel is going to be, impactful from a play perspective, like that's where the design team really gets involved in terms of what we can accomplish in terms of play features, etc. And then also what evergreen vehicles we feel we need to pepper into the line. And what's interesting is that Evergreen has changed. Evergreen is no longer just X-Wings and TIE Fighters. It's really Jedi Interceptors are Evergreen now. My argument would be the STAP, the BARC, the ATRT. Those are evergreens now.
Yep.
You have such a broader variety of ships that more fans really know that you can draw from. And again, when we're building out each series of line, we work with Lucasfilm. We come back to them with a list of vehicles. We provide our justification for why we feel these vehicles are the right ones, and they'll provide their feedback, and then we'll just go from there. We've worked with them long enough on the line that we are pretty much in sync when it comes to what vehicles we're selecting. And right now we very rarely have a lot of back and forth. It's very much like, but that's awesome, let's do it.
And what's cool about like the evolution of the evergreen stuff is that you're seeing sort of generations get a little bit older, right? It's like all of a sudden, like it was always the X-Wing TIE Fighters, but now the prequel.
I was going to say, it's got to be the prequel stuff because those kids are now 20, 30-year-olds. So
exactly, they've growing up. And what's so great about the line, and I think why we're hitting such a broad spectrum, is that there's this attention to detail, this for collectors, this authentic scale and stuff like that. But also, like at Star Wars Celebration, there were a bunch of kids at our booth. They can take a beating. There are tons of play features. So it's this really great mix that I commend Max and the design team, because I come in at the end and I just get to write about it and have fun with it. But it's true. I get sort of the easiest but most fun stuff, but they have designed it in such a way that the collectors have something that is awesome and looks great on their shelves that also doesn't take up too much space. Like we're talking about the 6-foot wingspans. And then on top of that, it's something you can really play with your kids. And as the generation cycles and continues.
It is really funny that Tim, you'll come in, you'll be like, oh man, what if we do this vehicle? I'm like, Tim, that's a Target exclusive. It's going to be on shelf. Like,
yeah.
Yes. And then I just cheer.
The fandom shines
then
through.
He gets mad because they haven't put in the copy request yet. He's like, I have to write about that by when? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning?
Hey, we got a question for, I'm guessing this would be for Max. This is coming from Ragriz Spectre here. More or less talking about old series, some of the hot ones, some of the chases. Are there any plans to re-release old series, or is eBay or bust for some of these collectors at this point? In particular, they're talking about Sabine's tie.
So for Sabine's tie in particular, and then any rare vehicle that we've done. So one, I do want to say that there will no longer be new tools utilized for rare chase vehicles. There will all be redecos or minor retools at the most. We've heard fans loud and clear who were upset that General Grievous's Starfighter was a rare vehicle. We originally had the TIE Bomber as a rare vehicle before moving it to common because we did see the writing on the wall of like, why are you doing this? No. That being said, we will not re-release vehicles that were rare chases because they are meant to be limited unless there is a significant color deco variation that we can find. So Sabine's tie, if there is a deco variant that we can do that makes sense, we'll 100% do it. But just a straight up re-release won't really happen.
I guess that's a question I would like to ask then. How do you decide? How does Jazzware decide what becomes a chase, which becomes a rare, which is a common? What dictates that?
So, I'm going to be honest, we didn't realize the appeal of Rebels, and we didn't realize how strong the Rebels fan community was at first.
Better get to it, man. Ahsoka is going to be coming in August.
Thanks. Yeah, no idea about that back, I think, 3 years ago when we were planning out the line. And, so we wanted to go with. I mean, Ahsoka's is wave 2, right? Like that's series 2. Tim?
Yes.
If I'm wrong, yeah. We planned that out in 2021. So Ahsoka was like, information, but we had no idea what was coming in terms of that and what would be included or what characters could potentially appear in that at that time. So that was baked. Those design sheets were done so far in advance that, again, we had no idea. But again, we also underestimated the appeal of Rebels at our own peril. And we really saw that when we revealed the chase piece being Sabine's masterpiece, and everybody going, "Oh my god!
Yeah.
Like, I need that. Why is it a chase?"
And in a way, when you look at it, it kind of is the perfect chase piece. We just didn't realize how big of a demand. It's like what makes a great chase piece is that, like Max is saying, it's not going to be new tools, right? It's going to be a different paint job on something that's already we have. So Sabine's was like kind of a perfect example, but we underestimated.
So I will slightly disagree with Tim there. Like the watchword for best good chase pieces and good chase figures are pieces that you would love to have in your collection but don't have to have in your collection. And again, we misinterpreted we did not fully understand the appeal of Rebels to the overall fan community. And so again, is that we will probably not re-release the Sabine Wren's tie, but at the same point in time, Series 2 is just getting out there into stores, especially Walmart. So everybody's going to have a better shot at grabbing that. And from a case pack distribution standpoint, there are Sabine TIE fighters out there.
Yeah, I'm starting to wish I picked one up when I saw it in the wild. Now that I know these eBay prices, I mean, I've listen. I'm a huge collector. If I could show you, you'd see I've got a nightmare behind me. But I've purposely, and you're not going to like to hear this, but I've purposely stayed away.
To the Boba Fett. I thought your collection was limited to the 2 posters: the Boba Fett helmet, the Superman, which I'm assuming is Mezco's 1/12. And then R2-D2.
Oh yeah, I got Boba chilling here. Kuiil, Maul, Thanos is over there, and my 40 other Hot Toys are in a plastic container right now as my wife is helping me redo the basement.
My collection is limited to this container of Marvel Zoom.
No, but back to my point. There's a reason I'm not a crackhead with Micro Galaxy at this point in time. I've had to make choices in life after my Funko Pop kind of fall from grace, where I went probably 500 or 600 deep there. Then I got nuts with Black Series. Now I'm getting a bit nuts with Hot Toys, and it's just, you got to draw the line somewhere. So I kind of appreciate the Micro Galaxy from afar, but it is killing me not to collect it. But I think the thing is we've worked that into our planning as well. Although Hot Toys collectors, I mean that's a hefty check, right? Yeah, that's you might need to be a little bit older. I'm not trying. I don't need another obsession, I guess, is what I'm saying. And this line is obsessive, as we can see from the people in the chat.
That's why we're lowering the MSRPs here. So you got your $4.99 Scout class now, your $9.99 Light Armor class, and your $14.99 Starfighter class. So you can't possibly go wrong.
Oh, sorry, man. Max is an enabler, I can tell.
So am I. My pitch as a collector, so this is what I do. And because I look at full lines of things and I'm like, oh my God, I want everything. But what I do is I put a limit on myself, and I'll just say, okay, maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're an Empire guy, maybe you're a Rebel guy, or maybe you're just Rebels, right? What's so great about, and Max was talking about this earlier, about our line is that we're pretty much trying to hit every era.
Yeah, that's a problem for complete collectors like myself. Well, you guys are like, who wants to chase people like me? Like when you got to have them all, that's where things get nuts.
But what you could do is you could just say, hey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to collect the Mandalorian from Micro Galaxy Squadron and leave it at that. And then, or you could just go, because what I do is I for Micro Galaxy Squadron, I just do OG Rebels. So I'm like, I have all that. That's gonna live in my house.
It's just I'm
Jim,
telling you.
You work for the company. Just say you collect everything. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean they don't. Jazzwares doesn't let you take any of the.
They do. I have the other stuff, but my own. Like, what did I go rebuy?
Okay.
Rebuy
All right.
for my own.
There you go. Tim's eating up all the chases. That's what's happening.
That's right.
Hey,
Here.
we got a question for you, Tim, coming from Max Rebo. Max Rebo would like to know if you're going to see a non-chase land speeder. He thinks they think it seems kind of essential for MGS collectors.
Oh, for the land speeder. I mean, Max, you should take this because that's a chase, right? We're talking about Luke's land speeder.
He wants he's asking if there's going to be a non-chase land speeder.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I just want to give quick introductions, right? Like, so on the line, I'm the senior brand manager. Like, I essentially help shepherd or work with all the different co-functional teams cross-functional teams that work within Jazzwares on the line. So design, packaging, marketing, product development, and then I report to leadership. We kind of create the line and work with the licensor to really bring it to life. And so that's designing the product, that's making sure that all the features work correctly, that it's manufacturable, making sure that it is manufactured, working on packaging that's going to highlight all the product features and going to make it as desirable as possible on shelf, and then marketing to really get that going. So that's really my role, is to really be the quarterback for that entire thing. Tim is are you our senior copywriter?
Just copywriter, action and adventure.
So Tim's our action and adventure copywriter, which is the coolest job title.
So Tim, why don't you explain that a little bit? Like what's your day-to-day as copywriter? Let's say Max brings you, hey, this is our next ship. What do you do?
So Max will generally text me or call me in the morning, like at 6:30, 5:30 a.m. my time. He's like, hey, we got a pre-order coming tomorrow. Here's all the copy for this series. No, Max will put in an order for the latest wave of everything coming in, and then it's my job to write all the product copy. Be like, hey, actually, it's funny you bring up the land speeder, because that was actually one of my favorite. I wrote 2 versions of that copy for Luke's land speeder. One that was all about the power converters from Tashi Station, which I scrapped, but I loved. But it was a little bit more Joseph Campbell.
Kill your darlings, Tim. Kill your
kittens, right? One that was more answer the call to adventure. And because I found out that Ben Kenobi was on it too. So I was like, all right, we're going to go in that direction. So Max or another brand manager. I also do other brands like Pokemon and Micro Machines and other things.
So Tim, are you mostly writing like the PR material, what you'd send out to outlets, or does any of your copy make it to the physical packaging describing the shipper?
Right now, we don't really have a lot of copy on our packages. That's something I'm always like pestering Max about. I'm like, let me write a whole Star Wars
bio
novel.
Yeah.
That we can
as a worldwide toy company, we often have to translate our packaging into up to 7 to 13 different languages, which means
it would add a little bit to the bottom line.
Also need to be translated into 13 different languages and appear within the same general area, or an area that's acceptable from local testing guidelines, which is extremely complicated.
So short and sweet is the direction from Max. Keep it simple.
But that means that if I wanted to put on our AT-AT Walker, for instance, try me. I have 13 lights and sounds. That's going to be 11 paragraphs long.
Packaging. Makes sense. I wonder, Tim being a writer, if you're probably trying to get as many words as possible out there.
I wrote a whole thing on the AT-AT that was like a
an
Rebel
opus.
transmission.
Yeah.
It was like the instruction manual was originally a Rebel transmission. But then that got struck down by the
Here's a good question here for you, Tim, from DC Micro Squad. Do you write the descriptions for the Target website?
Probably it's been lifted. So if you go to Target and it's like if you see whatever the description are for it, it'll normally have bullets and then what we call romance copies. So we have like our brass tacks, which is like the call outs of like, what do you get with, what is this? What do you get? And then the romance is what I have fun with it. Cause then I get to say, this is the ship that I get to, add a little color, like add a little flair. This is the ship that Yoda flew to Moraband, to confront, Darth, Darth Bane, and that's
Tim, what's my favorite? What's my favorite, Tim?
Oh, Stay Alive. Well, I thought it was Stay Alive in the Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron battle damaged TIE fighter. But I thought that made sense because it's like this thing is flaming and it's flaming out of control. Stay alive.
Yeah, the same fan here asked, did you write the disobey orders for the Marauder description?
I did.
There you go. Look at that. Hey, you ask
Yes.
and you shall receive here on the Star Wars
That's
Time
So
Show.
good.
Hey, you know what, guys? We just we shotgunned right into it. So I'm glad Max kind of paused things and at least introduced themselves. That's on me. But sometimes we got shy of a cannon here. We got right into the collecting talk. But let's kind of rewind a bit, as we got
the answer.
Go ahead.
You want the answer to the land speeder?
Yes,
question,
we do.
Okay. Yeah, no, it'll never be reused ever again. The land speeder just isn't a really popular vehicle, and I just don't see the appeal of releasing it. No, I'm just kidding. So there's a funny story behind that. First of all, 1,000,000,000% that one will be reissued with a different paint scheme. It'll be a minor redeco.
There you go, Max Rebo.
Even a little bit more screen accurate, but there's a reason that item is a super rare chase. It used to be a common vehicle until we realized how, incredibly small it is. It is literally the size of about a Hot Wheels car, which from a perception of value perspective, from a customer paying between $9.99 and $12.99 for the item, despite the fact that it has, if I'm not mistaken, translucent rolling wheels and opening hood with realistic and decoed engine detailing, a removable back section with engine detailing, and a removable engine cover, along with 2 microfigure accessories of Luke Skywalker, Tatooine, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. $12.99 is a bit of a stretch for something that is literally you can literally hold it in the palm of your hand. So we decided to make that a super rare chase piece, just from a perception of value perspective of the average consumer, which again kind of speaks to why we do rare chases to begin with, which is, look, your average shopper at Target or Walmart is not going to recognize, Sabine Wren, not Sabine Wren, sorry, that's a bad example. General Grievous the Starfighter, right? So making that ship a rare makes a bit more sense, and that allows us to actually produce that ship as opposed to like putting it in a common slot and then having it kind of sit at retail, which we don't want. However, yes, the land speeder was a very, very last minute. Oh my God, this thing is tiny. We need to make sure that we make it super rare, and then we re-release it as part of a really cool battle pack at some point in the future.
And that also brings up my question. It's about land speeders. I'm always on Max to get Han Solo's speeder from Solo from 2018. So maybe a land speeder.
Into it.
Maybe a land speeder battle pack in the future.
So Tim has a strange affliction in that Tim is the world's biggest Solo fan. It's a Lawrence Kasdan it is his favorite. It is his favorite Star Wars movie, and every time that we discuss what's going to be in the line, Tim will invariably bring up, when are we gonna get a speeder? When are we
that
gonna
opening
get
sequence is so much fun.
Lando's Falcon. Have you guys made Lando's Millennium Falcon?
Lando's Falcon is the one I want to do the most from Solo. We have done one vehicle from Solo. There is another vehicle from Solo coming.
Enfys Nest's bike would be pretty slick.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Spoiler warning. There you go. That's the one.
Oh, hey, you heard it here first on the Star Wars Time Show.
It's so long. It's so long that it almost does not fit in the blind box.
Really? Oh yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Super long. Yeah. I want to do Lando's Millennium Falcon. I think that is probably going to be one of the more play focused and magnum opuses of the line, right? In that you go, like, if you're gonna do it, and you're going to do it at this scale, you might as well do the whole thing where it comes pristine, and then you're able to literally just take it apart and make it into the vehicle that you see at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And again, the Millennium Falcon, I've said this several times, and Tim, I know this has come up before. the Millennium Falcon was that kind of centerpiece of our line where we go, okay, even when we were pitching this line to Lucasfilm, is that the vehicles in Star Wars are characters unto themselves.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon goes through a character arc across the entire span of the media, from its pristine condition in Solo all the way to its battered and bruised appearance at the very end of Rise of Skywalker. So we really are committed to doing every possible version of the Falcon that we can, because it is such an iconic ship. I mean, we've already done A New Hope. We've already done
Return of the Jedi.
We've done a Galaxy's Edge version. So, the team originally designed, and this came up on our last one of the last live streams. Apparently, the team initially designed a Minoc, sculpted into the eating the power cables on the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that is slick. That's a nice touch.
That got removed. So, I mean, we can always add that back in at some point, or we can do a version that has Minox, or we can do, oh my God, Tim, what if we, oh my God, perfect idea. San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, Millennium Falcon comes with all new, I know you're getting the same place as me. All right. So it comes with oh man, Hoth, Leia, I guess Bespin Han, Chewie with goggles on, and C-3PO, and then a whole bunch of Minox, and then the entire thing is in packaging that somehow morphs
exactly. I was going to say the package.
Yes,
the package has to be the space slug.
We're getting an inside look at a Jazzwares product meeting right now. I love it.
We have to do that.
One thing I wanted to say about Lando's Falcon, because it would be like a new tooling, as we've discussed. People asked about the lights and sounds of Return of the Jedi. So if we did, since Lando's Falcon would be all new, we would definitely, and talking about characters, we would definitely need to do different lights and sounds, and maybe L3 talking, because she's like a part of the ship.
She becomes part of the Falcon. She's the Navicomputer, all the way through. Hey, someone's got a good question here.
The Exegor thing is really good. We got to do that. How would we do that from a packaging standpoint?
Your packaging team's gonna love you now.
I mean, I'm literally writing an email to them now with an Exegorth exclusive.
Yeah, you almost have to make the Exegorth a part of the toy. It's plastic. Hey, how about any ships from Andor? I like this question from Devin. Luthen's Fondor ship. I don't know. Are you guys familiar with the Andor series?
My dad is all over that question every day. Every time he talks to me, I'm like, "Hey, Dad, I'm doing this with Star Wars." He's like, "That's great. What about this ship? When's it coming?" So there's definitely the audience.
Forget how big this thing is. Let me just double check how big it is.
It's pretty big, I think.
Yeah, if it's really big, that's a challenge.
I don't. It's no bigger. It's smaller than the Falcon, so it shouldn't be too massive.
I can't get into how much our tooling costs, but it's extremely expensive. Let's see. This is, it's Starship class. So this would be one, again, our goal is to do every Star Wars vehicle ever. But from a tooling cost perspective, meaning the cost of the molds and our reuse potential for the Fondor ship, it's gonna be a little whiles away.
Hey, while we're talking about money, Max, I know earlier you mentioned the price cuts that I know obviously this community is aware of. Will the retailers adhere to your new recommendations?
Well, again, MSRP stands for manufacturer suggested retail price, which means that a lot of them don't have to. I mean, you'll go to Hot Topic, you'll pay $10 for a blind. You go to Walmart and you'll pay $4.97 for a blind. We do anticipate, or I would guess, which would be my best answer there, that your big box stores, Walmart, Target, would adhere to that, as well as Amazon. But again, I can't make any guarantees.
Do you have plans to ever expand retailers to digital only, like Entertainment Earth or BBTS outlet, like big popular collector outlets like that?
I mean, that's what I've been pushing for years at this point. So yeah, I know that talks may begin at any time, or they could be happening. I don't really have any information on that. I haven't checked in for a while from the sales side there, but that's our goal. Our goal is to be where the collectors are and where the fans are, to help us build out that initial product push and help us do more product, or more vehicles rather. I mean, there's so many different vehicles that we could do as collector channel exclusives. We just need the large enough audience to justify the tooling and the development costs.
Now, guys, do you see this line ever moving beyond just vehicles? I've seen a few questions like, are we going to do character packs? Other
Max, can we? Yeah. So Max has talked to me when we talk about this. Right now we are strictly vehicle. However, if there were ever to be something on the horizon, I know Max would love to get into creatures, because that is the thing that would be. There's a ton of creatures in the Star Wars universe that are essentially function a lot like vehicles.
To answer the question more directly, though, Tim, sorry, like the line from conception was built to be vehicle first, right? We know the vehicles are the star of the show here, and the microfigures are really the accessories. So the place where you're going to get more microfigure accessories is with, limited army builder sets like the Grand Army Republic Battle Pack at Target right now, in the May the 4th end cap. It's a quick plug because I know that it's actually there because I just came back from my Target and they had a few left.
Go.
Yeah, but like the idea of doing just character packs, like it's a little bit less appealing to us because, again, we want to make sure that these characters have a vehicle to go in. And the magic of the microfigure accessories is that the ships are scaled to them. And that for the first time, really, for Star Wars, a figure is an accessory to a vehicle as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, I can tell there's some
more than anything else in the world.
I can tell there's some older fans in here that are, probably have fond memories of the Micro Machines Star Wars lines, action fleets, where you would get actual play sets. Like there was an Andor play set, a Death Star play set. You had the Darth Vader face that would open up and reveal the Bespin, fight chamber.
That was on our panel in Celebration. We talked about we love all those.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the inspiration for the line. I mean, I've said this before, but I own every single one of those transforming opening head playset ships or sets from Micro Machines. Actually, I'm looking at one right now.
My favorite was Darth Vader, and I love the Boba Fett too. But Darth Vader was one. It sold me. It was when you could force push Luke out.
Oh yeah, out the window, and the window would crack open. Big time.
That was a new.
What about the fact that you can literally like the thumb wheel thing to have Han Solo and Carbonite rise out of the center? That was awesome.
No, they were
and also the R2D2 that was Jabba the Hutt, so you could drop. Luke.
See, that was my favorite. I love that set so much because the Rancor is like my favorite. So like when Tim says that we want to do creatures and we want to do play sets as well, we're seeing where the line takes us. Like. If we have the opportunity to do play sets in the future, we'd love to take that opportunity. If we can do beasts in the future,
what be your favorite
Boba
beast?
Fett riding a Rancor.
Yeah, Boba Fett riding a Mag. Yeah,
I like dewbacks. I mean, my goal would be just literally like 50 dewbacks. I keep wanting to do this, but I haven't yet. Of just requesting that our factory send like just bags full of Ewoks that we can just have them like, as a massive display piece, just bags of Ewoks. But I can't figure out an actual business reason to justify that.
The Rancor would be good. The Purrgil, we've seen a few of those. Those are the space whales that make hyperspace from Rebels and showed up in Mandalorian.
Come with Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Crate Dragon could work as a beast, right? I mean, what else we got here? The Mythosaur, Zillo Beast from Clone Wars.
Oh, we have to do the Mythosaur, right? We have to do the Mythosaur.
Underwater play set with opening eye.
Somebody told me that I need to preface everything that we have from a conversation perspective with Tim and myself and any representatives from Jazzwares that you have on your program are fans ourselves, right? So anything that we speak highly of or we speak fondly of from a development or a selection perspective is literally just our opinions and does not represent something that may actually get made. Nothing is final and official until we've confirmed it to be as such. So even though I say I'd love to do a Mythosaur and we 100% would love to do a Mythosaur and should do a Mythosaur,
everyone simmer down a little bit.
Do a Mythosaur.
Calm down, everybody. Quit posting.
I get write-ups from certain sites like Max, just confirm that we're gonna do a Imperial troop transport from this and this. And like, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I think so far the only somewhat exclusive we got was the Emphas Nest.
Yeah, that is actually happening.
So that is legit for you Micro Galaxy fans out there. Hey,
I don't know when it's coming, but it definitely is.
All right, how much Is there any relation to Micro Machines in Micro Galaxy? Or are they two completely separate brands?
No, completely separate brands. Micro Machines is owned by Hasbro, which Jazzwares did license and did produce a awesome line of Micro Machines, which Tim did write copy for. But no, there is no formal relation between the two lines. They're completely different scales, and yeah, they're totally different.
Yeah, so your thing is it's true 1-to-1, right? Scale wise.
We're approximate. I would say
One-ish.
we're approximately 196 scale.
Okay.
196. So 8 feet of real world space equals 8 feet of real world space equals 1 inch of toy space.
Well, yeah, I'm an idiot. 1-to-1 would be we'd have to be parking these things out in our driveways and stuff.
Would be lifetime.
That would be problematic. Yeah, good luck solving your packaging on 1-to-1, but yeah.
No, I mean the packaging wouldn't even be a concern. It would be the retail space of going to Target and being okay. Yeah, so
yeah, they're out back. They're in the back 40.
Your sporting goods and most of your pet aisle. Oh, and all of your grocery department.
Yeah, your whole store.
One SKU.
You would just put the X-Wings in the parking lot. That'd be it.
I love it. I'm an
It
idiot.
would be like when you go to Home Depot and you see the ride-on mowers out front. It would just be that.
Exactly. All right, let's do it. Hey, you never know. I mean, I've seen advertising or social media posts out there for a Star Wars fan that has a $26 million Star Wars home theater.
Galaxy
there you go. So there's probably someone that would buy it. You know what? We've been talking a lot of Jazzwares, which is awesome. A lot of Micro Galaxy Squadron, but Max just offered up. You know, they are fans too. So I'd like, before we've got maybe 15 minutes left. Both of you, what kind of got you into Star Wars?
15 minutes left?
Well, we were doing an hour, right?
You can do as long as you need, man.
Okay. Well, we still have we have other topics to get through. This is a weekly show, so we usually spend 2.5, 3 hours sometimes. I don't want to eat up your whole night. So.
Oh no, dude, we're happy to. I mean, I'm happy to talk through whatever you guys have. Like, I'm a massive fan of everything Star
All right.
Wars.
Well, hey, when we're done with Jazzware, I can bring on my co-hosts and we can rip through some of the Star Wars visions and some of the other topics we had. But I didn't know. I didn't figure you guys would want to be here for the slog. So I planned for an hour, but hey, whatever you want to do.
Tim, do you have anything to do?
I have a sandwich to eat, but that's pretty much. I have not watched the second season of Visions though. So
all right, yeah, you might not want to be in for that one, yeah, because we're going through rankings, so we'll be talking a little bit about the plots of each one.
Exactly which episodes to watch and which order.
Right. Hey, we'll see when we get there, but let's start with Max, I guess. Max, what got you into Star Wars? Was it a kid thing? So parents, family, friends?
My parents watched Star Wars on one of their first dates together, but they never introduced me to Star Wars. It wasn't a big cultural phenomenon thing to them. It was just a movie that they watched and my dad remember liking. But for me, it was a really roundabout way. You can't really see any of my office space here, so I'll just offer up one of them. Like, I'm a massive Transformers fan. And I love everything about Transformers. And so when I was a kid, my dad is a doctor, and he would take me with him to the hospital on rounds on the weekends. And after he was done, just sit there watching cartoons in the waiting room. But we would go out for Pizza Hut, and he'd take me to the shop in Somerville, New Jersey called Winston's. And Winston's was miraculous in the 1990s because it had dead stock of 80s toys, like for retail price. So I'm not sure where you're from originally, but like back in the 90s, there was still a bunch of like 1980s toy stock, especially on the East Coast, just left lying around in warehouses. And so these toy stores would have access to it, and they'd sell it for what the retail price was. And so they had vintage Transformers like Ultra Magnus, everything like that, brand new, for retail price. And so I would get one like once every 2 weeks or so. And one day, unfortunately, they were out. But they did have this brand new item on the shelf, and that was the Power of the Force 2 collection. And so I had no idea what any of these things were. And so I picked up the TIE Fighter, my first Star Wars vehicle, Darth Vader, and Chewbacca, and I had a freaking blast with those, and I picked
The
up
muscular
as much as
I was gonna
Chewbacca.
say that's the steroid era of making Star Wars
100
toys.
Well, that's the coolest thing about that line is that
Barrel chested.
initially Kenner was like, my God, what is working for us right now? Oh, you know what? Superheroes are working for us right now. So let's make these characters as buff and
Yeah.
superhero-esque as possible.
Bunch of
and
Tommy
that's what's
Tough
gonna
guys.
sell. And then everybody was like, I don't remember Luke having a six-pack and like straining out of that toga. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, like
I don't
Schwarzenegger
remember Darth
pecs.
Vader having a V-shaped chest.
I did appreciate the muscular Wookiee, because I was like, well, that's what he probably looks like underneath all that shit.
Princess Leia was the best. Princess Leia was the absolute best. Do you guys remember how popular that figure was when it first came out, and then quickly how derided it became once people actually looked at it?
See,
that's the best picture.
this is a funny thing. I missed a lot of the Power of the Force years, because that would have been my high school time. So I was focused on other stupid things, girls, all that fun stuff. But I missed it all. My dad collected it, so I've inherited some. It's sitting in my cubby. But you always remember that line as being the beefcake era of Star Wars 3 3/4 inch action figures.
I mean, the craziest thing about that though is that was the best time to get into Star Wars, because you got like people started they were putting feelers out there for the prequels. They're really bringing Star Wars back into light again. And I was at that age. I was at a young enough age, like I was only 10 or so at the time, where it still meant a lot to me. It was still really cool. And like the year that I got those figures, possibly even the year before, my first experience with Star Wars as a whole, as like an actual movie, is my parents are having a Christmas party. I'm sitting upstairs because they're my parents' friends, not mine, and I'm flipping through the channels and I see this sequence, and it's the Rancor pit sequence, and I am just blown away by how cool that is, and it's the coolest thing that I've ever seen to date. And yeah, I mean that was my intro to Star Wars. But the cool thing about that is I became such a Star Wars nut and such a Star Wars nerd that I picked up every periodical I could find, Star Wars Insider, any magazine that featured Star Wars, any book like from concept to screen to collectible, Star Wars Encyclopedia, The Essential Guide to Aliens and Creatures, The Essential Guide to Vehicles, all the DK books. What was the other really, really big one? Any comics that I could get my hands on, like Star Wars Infinities. And so one day I'm sick, and my mom's like, I'm going to go to the bookstore. You want anything? I'm like, anything with Star Wars. Just find me anything with Star Wars. I love anything. And so she brings me back this magazine. I'm like, this isn't Star Wars. And she's, oh, but it says Star Wars. And it was this magazine. It was packaged in a poly bag, if you can still remember those. Like, remember they used to have like those poly bags, like call-outs with what's in them. And it says free Star Wars poster included, but it's this magazine, Wizard Magazine. I'm like, what's Wizard Magazine? It's got Batman and Captain America on the cover. What's going on here? And I start reading that. I'm like, I really love this magazine. Like, this is really fun. And so I start to learn more and more about comics. And, those became kind of my dual passions, with Star Wars and then comics, and learning more and more about them. And what's ironic is that, I don't know what's ironic, but like, that led to me getting a job at Marvel, like all those years and years and years later. But yep, Star Wars.
That's interesting. You kind of did the reverse, I would think, of most fans, where we start with movies, books, or comics, then get into the toys and whatnot. You kind of did a little bit different. That's a unique way into that far, far away galaxy. How about you, Tim? What's your first Star Wars memory?
I mentioned, before we went live. So for me, Star Wars has always been there. I was born in '84. My brother is 7 years older than me, my older brother, and he was a big fan when it came out. And he was born in '77, and he saw Empire in the theaters. So I always had him above me, and I became a much bigger fan than he ever was, but he sort of had that over me. So in my life, Star Wars was always there. I don't remember a first time I saw it. However, I do remember one Christmas my mom brought home, we got a VCR for the first time, and we got the Star Wars trilogy on VHS, and that was the beginning.
Is
of
that the gold box set or the silver box set?
No. Like earlier.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking the Yoda Stormtrooper Darth Vader head.
No.
Even before that, like the actual poster art versions. I'm guessing.
Yeah, and exactly. The actual poster art and the one with the colored, not like the yellow,
Yeah, I got you. I know where you're at.
And if I remember correctly, I can't, like, maybe that was my first time. I don't know. But I remember that being a big deal. And then those were my tapes, and I wore them out. You know, that's I had them, and then they just became a part of my universe. And then I remember what was a big explosion is that I was probably too young to like fully read them or even listen to them, but I saw the Timothy Zahn audiobooks on the shelf, and I was like, holy cow, what are those? Those aren't the films. And I find out later in life, actually, I just kind of recently found out that art was by the same guy who did the original poster art for at least Star Wars and Empire. And I was like, so there was an authentic feel to them when I saw them. And I was like, oh my God, what are those? And they were cassettes, not VHS tapes. But that started an even deeper love affair, because then I got into the Brian Daley stuff, because I started listening to his radio dramas, and I became a super fan of those. I'll grab my two. Oh my God!
His latest acquisitions, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so we got Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. We've got
check this out.
Han Solo's Revenge, and then I just got this right before Star Wars Celebration. I found this I got Han Solo at Stars, and it's a junior high library book.
There's some classics here. You're really digging into the EU.
Oh yeah, Brian Daley's like my favorite. So I became, when Power of the Force came out, the movies were re-released. I'm a big fan. Hold on, here's the other one.
Shadows.
I got Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shadows is coming.
And what not a lot of people know about that is that, and he's not credited, but Lawrence Kasdan was a part of the story discussion. So like, why is the overall story of Shadows so good, and like why is the ending like awesome? It's because Lawrence Kasdan was like a big hand in that. When Darth Vader comes and like the TIE fighters don't shoot on the rebels and they just go after Shizor's ship, it's just like
it's funny. Like a lot of this stuff has been put into their, as they call, legends tales, but recently, and especially in the Mandalorian, the Mandoverse, that timeline, they are starting to tap into that stuff. I mean, we had Captain Pelion was recanonized. He's from Heir to the Empire. Even some of the things he said sounded very Timothy Zahn, Heir to the Empire like.
Right from it. Which I'm so glad they're doing, because when we were on a live stream last week, we were talking to Paul, who's Carson Teva, and I was telling him, man, like, I'm so glad we're diving into the New Republic era, and what's great is like there's so many eras of Star Wars. Max and I've talked about with the toys that we get into, but for me, based on sort of like where I was when I grew up, the idea of the New Republic era was super cool, because that's where all the EU.
Yeah, totally.
That it was before the prequels became a big thing. It was sort of like, okay, they defeated the Empire, but now they got to put together the government, and it's like fragile, and there's all this other stuff, and we're still working with the same characters. I'll do my other plug. This guy's a big Brian Daley fan. Matt Stover's Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, which I love. I think it's really fun. But I was into that, I was into that whole era, and the explosion of the EU is what I was really 100% a part
would
of.
You all, kind of going back to Jazzware, this might be a Max deal, but would you all consider making EU legend ships or no?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. There's no question. We'd love to do it. It's just a matter of when. I know that we're able to do some vehicles from the EU. It all depends on what the vehicle is and the timing around
Eben Hawk, the Outrider, right?
Yeah,
Outrider. The one we get the most requests for of anything
is the Outrider.
The Outrider, yeah.
And we don't know anything about this, but like it all depends also, it's like what's going to happen, right? Like we saw the Outrider in Rebels once, right? Like it was, I think in one episode they showed it, and it wasn't the Outrider, but it was a YT 2400.
Right.
So it'll be interesting.
Well, we saw a YT 2400 too in the Rise of Skywalker, did we not?
I don't know. Do you guys play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes?
Oh yeah,
the Outrider's a big time ship in that with Admiral Radiss's fleet right now. So I mean, it's in that community, it's big. We love the Outrider.
I came out of retirement because like my wife and I used to play it like all
oh
the
boy,
time.
here's another Swago crackhead. I found one.
yeah. Oh, it's tough though because Galaxy Heroes, like, because I also play Marvel Strike Force. Galaxy of Heroes is tough because like the shard packs are very stingy.
It's
so
grindy.
I probably would spend a lot more money on it, but I'm always just like, I'll just do it for free. But I came out to grind for the Outrider once I saw it was in there. I was like, Dash Rendar and the Outrider.
Yep.
I'm back.
Done and done.
Yeah. So specifically to put it with my now 6-star Han's Millennium Falcon. So I'm slowly building those up.
What about,
yeah.
I remember the Action Fleet, didn't they used to do, and I know that's not you all, but didn't they used to, I think they put out some of the Ralph McQuarrie conceptual ships.
So they did a series of 2-packs where it was the original trilogy ship and then a smaller version of the Ralph McQuarrie concept. That is something that we are considering doing. We just need to find the best route to get those out there because they are super iconic and they're super cool. Especially the TIE Fighter, the X-Wing, your classic A-tier vehicles. Getting those concepts out there, but there's also a lot of really cool stuff from the prequel trilogy as well. That's just like all concept art in very early form and just kind of like, I really like that kind of prototypical look of everything. We'll also do the inspiration from Millennium Falcon, which is a olive next to a burger at some point.
This is reminding me of the Micro Machine. Micro Machines did a small pack of, it was Kevin J. Anderson's, I think it was the Champions of the Force trilogy.
I have this. Do you own this? I have an extra copy. Do you want one?
I would love it. It's got Kip Duran and the Sun Crusher. I was like that. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's deep EU. I was like, even
well,
back
it came in a replica of the actual book itself, right? That was the opening case, and then you would open it up, and then it was in there. I'll send you pictures of it after the call because I have that. I literally have that in my basement in a box.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, again, we're talking on behalf of ourselves, but yeah, something from.
I mean, we're friends, so it's only $150 for you, Tim.
The friend discount. Yes, we've mentioned this before, but what I would love to see at some point to do would be Han Solo's Revenge is actually the first appearance of the word swoop. So, like, for my money, I would love to get a Han Solo and villain swoop battle pack to commemorate the swoop scene in here, which would be super awesome.
So with all the talk on these potential ideas, I guess, Max, what drives a series? Is it all analytics? Is it customer feedback? Yeah. I mean, what type of data are you looking at to make these decisions on what should be made next?
I mean, we've talked to thousands of fans at this point from being at Celebration 2 years in a row, and we've gotten ideas from all different corners of the Star Wars
Right, but they're not paying the bills. So I mean, what data points do you have to see to get these things greenlit?
So I need to, again, it also depends on the rarity. It also depends on, how many we're going to produce, right? If it's a newly tooled vehicle, meaning that it's a brand new vehicle, it's never been done, we have to sculpt it from scratch, and then we have to pay for the steel tool mold in order to actually get it produced. It's going to need to be something that's featured in upcoming content. So if the Star Wars, what do you call it? If any of Shadows of the Empire, for instance, became canon and became featured even momentarily on an episode of like The Mandalorian or something like that, we could consider doing the vehicle. Okay. That being said, if it's something where it's the Sun Crusher, for instance, Sun Crusher is a bad example because that's not that big. Give me a really random expanded universe vehicle.
We probably can do it. We could do like Corran Horn's Jedi, his X-wing starfighter from the revamp.
But even that's an X-wing. Like I'm talking like, right. Oh my god.
Like, okay, using the Yuuzhan Vong stuff.
There you go. Yeah, Yuuzhan Vong. that's something where that's a little bit harder. And I know we have a lot of Yuzing fans. I know that there's a lot of people who are probably yelling at me in the comments right now, which I'm not looking at. But yeah, I mean, that would be something that's a little bit harder to do. But what goes into it from an analytics perspective is it an A-tier vehicle? If it's not an A-tier vehicle, is it coming up in content? Has it had an anniversary recently? So, you know, the Phantom Menace's 25th anniversary is next year. What vehicles are adjacent to that we can focus on? Is it a cool redeco with just a new microfigure accessory that we can do? Is it a minor retool? I mean, there's so much stuff from the Marvel comics that we can pull from at this point, that there's so many interesting vehicles that just have never really been done before with their specific rider. Is it something that we feel that the fan base is really going to kind of like latch onto? Like, I mean, for me, it would be super random would be the 2003 Clone Wars animated micro series, the clone swoop bikes that they ride. They're a very different design than anything else in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like,
there wasn't Dirge was on one of those too, or did Dirge? I think Dirge had his own bike.
Dirge's is completely different from the other Clone Wars guys, but yeah, like doing something like that, like those are cool nods to the fans, and those are
we just announced our Dirge.
Yeah, we did. Dirge.
Love it. We're getting some good ideas in here, at least from Swago. I think Tim might the IG 2000 ship, Xanadu Blood, Houndstooth, right?
Yeah, there's
the Houndstooth. No, I would do the Natasha Pop if I was going to do a Bosk ship, mostly because it is a easy repaint of the Z95 Starfighter as opposed to being an all new tool, which is a brick about this big.
Yep.
Which I love Bosk. Tim loves Bosk. Everybody on the stream loves Bosk. But like,
I grinded so hard for Bosk in Galaxy.
Heck yeah, man! The Houndstooth is still a stalwart. I mean, that thing is a tank.
Yeah, he's a staple. Yeah,
I mean, Miss Hunter. You got the Miss Hunter for Forlom and Zuckus. You've got the IG 2000, I think.
Yeah,
and Dengar's Jumpmaster, which is a tough ship in X-Wing miniatures, which I also my wife and I used to play a lot of.
Again, this isn't EU, but the quad jumper. It was featured in Andor and then in TFA. It's an interesting looking ship as well.
Yeah, he gets blown up within 11 seconds, right?
Not the one Andor was on.
Would you consider that an A-tier iconic vehicle?
Hey, it got Andor off that prison planet, so he could then start getting to where he needs to be to help blow up the Death Star. So I guess maybe, who knows?
I would love to see the V-wing starfighter from Rogue Squadron 64.
Yeah,
deep cuts here.
Went
deep
directly
cuts
into the end of Dark Empire, which was super wild. Like I've never seen. Maybe we should if we did like a Rogue Squadron 60. That's probably my favorite Star Wars game of all time. Something from Rogue Squadron 64 would be so exciting for me.
Can we do is it the Dodge Impala? Like, what was the secret color you get?
George Lucas's Buick.
Yeah. Let's just do George Lucas's Buick.
There you go. That'd be sweet. Good
that's
stuff.
a licensing deal I would 100% be on for.
So one more
with a little plaid microfigure accessory. Oh my God.
One more question on data. I'm in the data, but like let's just say the current series are out there. What is your biggest demo right now? Is it older, like 30s, 40s?
100. Yeah, I mean, 100% what we got is we have the collector audience. And it's interesting in that we don't have the specific data for exactly what collector that is or how old those collectors are. We're working to build up the kid audience. That's really our focus for the next year. But the benefit is that, the vehicles that are, popular with kids and collectors are relatively similar, right? Collectors want the same vehicles from the Clone Wars that kids do.
Right.
Collectors want the same vehicles from the Mandalorian that kids do. So there's a nice bit of overlap there, and there always has been. So it's not really a difficult call to make.
So you're getting like the 6 to 60 demo then, which is unheard of in most industries.
I would definitely say it's probably more along the lines, and I'm just being completely honest here, which I always get in trouble for, but like it's definitely more along the lines of the 25 to 60-year-old demo. kids definitely pick up the line, but collectors are the ones who are snatching up the pre-orders, who are snatching up the product when it hits store shelves, and then kids are left with the evergreen ships to kind of pick through.
But also, again, though, this is why I think it's important to get the demographic we have, because a lot of these collectors now are either starting their families or have like, or their families are in have taken full shape. And what's so much fun about this line is that, and I have a 15-month-old, and I'm like, and I don't, there's
That's
certain
fun.
like the microfigures. Yeah. Oh my God. Tell me about it. And there's when you're a certain age, you can't have anything too small, but these things are loaded with play features. And
Tim's son has swallowed so many microfigure accessories.
So many microfigure accessories.
I'm assuming they pass easily then if your son's still around.
I sort of pluck them out. Yeah.
Tim has the X-rays to show.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, no. No, but it's really a great line for collectors and their families and their kids. Because like the AT-AT, it's incredible. It looks super cool. It's got all these great posability features, and yet it's got tons of play features. And we were at Star Wars Celebration in Europe. There were kids just coming back every day to play with it and just hanging out with it for as long as they could until their parents ripped them away. So. Which is awesome because Star Wars is a generational story. That's what it's all about. It's about sharing. It's about sharing things with, passing on what you have learned. So we're definitely pivoting to try to reintroduce the story to a younger audience, but having the collector base be a part of that is a part of that.
Yeah, journey, in Star Wars, you can always bank on the older generations sometimes forcing their love of it on the younger generations, which always equals more sales in collecting. So you picked a good brand to go with this line. Let's just say. It just makes total sense. It's blown up since its release. What was it? 2022 was the official launch of Micro Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Jeez, has it only been like less than a year? It's been only almost a year that we even.
It's got to be wild for you all, because as a collector, I feel like it's been around for 10 years, and it really has been maybe less than a year. But I mean, what a story! I mean, do you guys ever do you have time to just kind of sit there and be like, "Holy shit! Look what we've done with this line in just a year's time."
Max and I talk about it all the time, and the one story, the really meaningful story I have is that. My son was born February 24th of 22, and then not too long after he was born, I wrote all of the copy for the Wave 1 for all of the vehicles in Wave 1, and that was such a meaningful experience because I'd been following Star Wars for so long, and so to be really, writing for an actual release of really incredible figures, and I'd just become a father. It was incredible.
I mean, same here, right? As my son was born, literally, my wife gave me special permission to attend Star Wars Celebration, even though she was essentially 8.5 months pregnant to launch the line. And then, we had our baby at the end of June, and I've worked in the line since. The pitch, I gave the idea to upper management. They entrusted me to lead the entire kind of pitch process and working with all the various different teams to concept everything. And then when my wife and I were moving from Florida to California before we moved back to New Jersey, just stopping in Arizona at a lodge or something like that to pitch it to Lucasfilm, all of that. So it's been a part of my life for so long. I've been there since day -3. And the person who, I always would talk about this stuff with and who I would always go to ideas with is my old college buddy over here, Tim.
We would just talk about Star Wars before I joined Jazzwares, and I remember Max is beginning to put this together, and and then and then I ended up joining the team, and then had the honor of getting to actually write for it. So, but
Which
yeah,
is
no,
such a blessing. I mean, it's like the thing that my big thing about toys in general and about brands in general, especially IP driven brands, is that you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have a passion, if you don't have a love for the brand itself, the item is going to suffer. And I'm so fortunate, like I can't state this enough. Like, I'm so fortunate that I am literally surrounded on a daily basis just by Star Wars fans. Packaging,
Max, are we at
design.
like dream come true type of moment for your
No,
career?
we're beyond that.
Yeah.
We're beyond that. This is easily the biggest career highlight I've had. And I've worked on a line of cosplaying ducks featuring DC and Marvel characters that retail for $1 each, called Ducks with a Z at the end, because anything with a Z at the end is cooler.
Of course.
This, which sold 1 million units to Target. So I mean, no shade there to Ducks, except that they weren't called $1 Ducks as the original one. But like, this is beyond dream come true. Like, because like I say this over and over again, I don't know if it resonates with anybody but me and people who've kind of lived through something like this. But like, in the toy industry, you create product, right? And like, you're lucky if like a few people share the vision that you do, and that people share the interest in what the item is, or that they're as on board as you are. Usually there's one person who's more overly excited than anybody else. The great thing about Jazzwares in general is that everybody working on the brands that they are loves the IP, loves the brands that they're working on. Like, they believe in Squishmallows. Like, Squishmallows are a part of their life. Cocomelon, like, their kids love Cocomelon, and that resonates with them. People who are working on oh man, what was it? I'm gonna think of another brand. Trying to think off the top of my head. Like, people who
Pokemon.
Halo.
Pokemon. Yeah, you want to talk about Pokemon? I've never seen a more dedicated team than Pokemon. But then you have Star Wars, and like, you don't get like people who are in product development who are fans of the line that they're working on, like, as much as I've seen on Star Wars. Like, it's just like everybody loves it. They're always like, PD wants to be involved in every single brainstorm meeting or every single like just thought gathering.
I mean, it's probably like a mini Star Wars celebration every time you guys have a staff meeting, right? I mean, you're all fans, all talking about Star Wars, and you're making money talking about Star Wars. You can't beat it.
It really is. And like, the cool thing is like being able to do podcasts with people like Paul E and like Mike Quinn, who are part of Star Wars. Like, we get to geek out with people who are actually in the films and listen to their stories and have them geek out about our product. Like, all of that is just,
and the fans, and talking about, for me, the dream was when we were at Star Wars Celebration Europe, and I ended up giving this I think it was the Imperial Troop transport to a kid, but like, I talked to his parents, are you guys into Star Wars? Like, oh no, we're not really, but he loves it. And I gave it to him, and he gave me a huge hug. He didn't know what
Tim, he'll never forget that. You know that, right?
Yeah,
like, he will never forget that moment.
To me, I was like, well, and because I have a bit of a different path than Max, like, I worked a lot of jobs not related to really cool IP before I basically built up a body of work as a writer before it allowed me this position. But like, in that booth, giving that toy to that kid, talking to all these fans, like, and that's what, all the work, all the countless hours of no recognition and no compensation. It was for that. It was for connecting with like-minded individuals over the shared passion. And I was like, wow, to be able to do that for him, to talk to all these people. And that's what I tell the Max all the time, like you're creating a product that a lot of people are gonna keep for the rest of their lives.
Yep. And
to be able to interact with that community and be here and talk to you and just build these connections and over our shared love for this universe. I mean, that's
awesome, guys. I mean, I'm envious. I mean, look, I just sit in my basement and talk about it once a week and make stupid videos on the internet. I would love to like have an actual foot into the Star Wars universe. So if you ever need an intern, let me know. You know, you got my contact now.
It's a blessing, right? Like, and that's why I keep saying, like, the people who work on this are fans, and like they're diehard fans too. Like, I get to work with Tim. Like, I get to have Tim write my copy, and Tim is going to go and he's going to add storytelling elements to this copy that no one else that I've ever worked with could, right? He's going to make it so that you understand how the vehicle fits into the context of the films, why it's awesome. He explains the action features so well. He makes you want to buy the toy better than I ever could. You know, my design team is just so ridiculously talented. Our packaging team comes up with the coolest concepts, and like it's taking so much to not reveal our San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. And
well, they've been asking. I didn't bother you, but there's been a few questions in the chat. Hey, you guys said the SDCC exclusive reveals are coming soon, so when are they coming?
I can't reveal that because I don't actually know yet. But once they
honest answer, there you go, people. Honest answer.
We're gonna do more of these. Like, they're unbelievable, and then we'll tell you the really cool behind the scenes stories about one of them in particular. But yeah, I mean, like Tim said, also it's the fans and like getting to connect with them. Like, being on these podcasts is fascinating and fun because we get to talk to people about exactly what Star Wars is to us and what the line is, and really just listen to them and take what they're saying into heart, so that we can better our product from that. I mean, my number one fan story will go back to Star Wars Celebration, right when we launched. Right before we launched, we had just done a press release. We had just set up the booth at Star Wars Celebration, and this kid came over with his dad, this kid named Noah, and Noah came by every single day, and he would ask me, "Oh, can you do this ship? Oh, I love these vehicles so much. Can you do this ship? Can you do this ship?" And I was like, by day 3 of that, I was like, this kid is like a mega fan. And he's like, "I like this about your vehicles. I think they should have this feature and this feature and this feature." I'm like, my God, like, this kid's like 11, 12 years old, and he's already a massive fan. And so I go, all right. No, come back on day 4, last day of the show, with a typewritten list of every vehicle you want to see us make. And if you do, I'll give you something special. Now, mind you, none of the product had been released yet. I don't believe the pre-orders had gone live yet. So nobody had any of this product in hand. Nobody. And so Noah comes back the last day, and he gives me this typewritten list that is in my bag every single day when I go to work, when I come home. And it says stuff like AAT battle tank. I'm not going to read the ones that are spoilers. Pod racers, staff with battle droid, Grievous's starfighter, Grievous's wheelbike, Emperor's shuttle, like all of this super, super cool stuff. And I gave him our very first Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Starfighter that we essentially had.
That is
that
awesome.
wasn't even final. That was not even final. Just here, have that. But this, like, this goes with me every single day.
Saying 10 years he's going to be on your team. You know, when you're in the C-suite, he'll be the brand manager.
I spoke to his dad too, and I said, "Look, man, like, if this kid ever needs a job in the future, just let me know."
Yeah, the idea man. Let's hit him up. Tap him for some ideas. That is great.
Oh, we did. We also, by the way, he also got the very first Sabine's tie and Hera's A-wing that we produced. The very first.
See, people, what Max is telling you, just bother him at shows, and maybe you'll walk away with something that no one else can get.
Cool.
Persistence.
Yeah, my giveaway.
But bring notes. Bring type notes. That's the trick.
Also, be under the age of like 20. Come on. Yeah, it's funny. I've run out of things to give away, so I just give away stuff that I find on my desk at work. Like, those are my giveaways during like a podcast for like trivia questions and stuff like that.
Well, that's awesome. Well, guys,
how about you, by the way? How'd you get into Star Wars?
Me? All right, we gotta interview the host. I'm down. It's just literally, it's from birth. My dad. I mean, it's just I've always been a Star Wars fan. Earliest memories, I've watched the movies. I mean, I saw Jedi in '83 as a 3-year-old in the theater. and haven't looked back since. So I like I said, in my teens, I kind of fell away from a little bit because there's nothing new coming out. But once the prequels were announced, I was right back in, getting my Insider subscription up and going, and going to theaters, buying tickets for Monsters Inc. just so I could see the trailer for the Phantom Menace, and then I'd leave. That type of stuff. Saw the TPM 10 times in the theater. So yeah, I'm a junkie. It's been a guiding force in my life. Like, I'm not like a weirdo that can't function in society. We know some of those people, but
it's an incredible story, especially the original trilogy for me. It's not a lot of IP can say this. But it is the story of Luke's relationship with his father.
That's it.
And the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, especially for fathers and boys, because that's all I can speak to. But like the sins of the father, and then as you become a father, you understand, what came before you, and becoming your own person in the shadow of your father. I mean, these are really heavy hitting themes that are about all of civilization of mankind, and Star Wars tells that story in such an uplifting way that you can apply to your life. Like, not every IP and very few really have something that deep in elements.
No, it's just like I said. I mean, it's what got me interested in tech. That's why I now work in IT. Actually, I teach it. It's just everything. But like you said, Tim, it is the dad thing. I wouldn't say I have the best relationship with my father, so it does kind of mimic the Luke Vader thing. Return of the Jedi is my favorite movie. Favorite moment is their duel in front of Palpatine. That one still hits me. Yeah. Even to this day, I've seen it probably a million times, but I can still think back to little Matt watching those moments with the son, teaching the dad a lesson. You know what I mean? So that's
Return of the Jedi. People are like, always Empire's the best. I think Return of the Jedi is the most serious of them.
That's
all.
My number one.
Because it's got other tone stuff for fun stuff, but like what's going on with Luke, Vader, and the Emperor is
deep.
By far the deepest, heaviest stuff.
I mean, listen, I know everyone puts Empire up there for the most part, but as a little kid watching Empire Strikes Back, it was depressing. It was sad. I didn't like watching the good guys lose. So that's why Empire is not my favorite movie. It might be the most well done overall, but to me, it's always going to be Return of the Jedi. There's just something about that film that resonates.
I totally agree with you because like Star Wars at the end of the day is a resurgence of the serial format, right? And I feel like Return of the Jedi does that so well because it is divided to separate sections. Like you've got, like Tim and I were talking about this the other day. You've got the Jabba's Palace section. You've got the say goodbye to Yoda section. You've got the the Endor bunker siege. You've got the massive space battle. Then you have that epic final duel and that whole relationship like kind of coming together.
And like, the wildly off-tone Ewok feast.
Beating on the helmets of their food,
I'm sorry. And by the way, I am Max Rebo apologist. I love Max Rebo. I love Jedi Rocks. I think it fits in perfectly.
Get a special edition edit.
Hey, well, it was the only one I didn't see in theaters. So the 40th anniversary was the first time that I got to say I watched Return of the Jedi in theaters.
I don't so much mind the changes to Jabba's palace. You know, Boba getting his Mac on, and what's his name? That guy.
Love that. I love that.
The guy singing the loud song now instead of Sly Snoodles. But I still to this day absolutely disagree with the choice to get rid of Yub Nub for the Ewok celebration in favor of whatever the hell it is now. That's bullshit. Like Yub Nub. Yes, that's
the Ewok.
But the thing is, Tim, like that sequence shows you like it bookends the entire like 6 movies though, because you see all these different locations.
Yeah, but for the original trilogy,
they can keep those scenes in. Just don't change the damn music. Like Yub Nub's a killer track. Like that. That's all I'm talking about.
Yub Nub.
Yeah, but people give the Ewoks a hard time. But the Ewoks, what I love about Jedi is that like it does have a happy ending, right? It does have, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why Return of the Jedi I think is so good, because
Yeah, but somehow Palpatine
Empire is
returned.
great. Right, well, let's not go
As revealed in Fortnite.
but like,
Here, I'll say
Empire
my
does-
only negative thing.
But
And
Empire doesn't
I'll break
need
my
to
PR rule. Tim,
Empire doesn't-
I'm breaking my PR rule here. The
Uh-oh.
the only thing that drives me crazy is that a sequence that was mentioned in the opening crawl of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, happened in the Fortnite
Max,
live
my
event.
co-host and I, we've gone over this ad nauseum. It's absolutely egregious that's how that shit played out.
Oh, I
Which
didn't.
makes me,
I
it
didn't
still to this
know
day
that.
makes me mad.
Yeah, like J.J. Abrams himself promoted the reveal in Fortnite like it was one of the worst crossover promotions of all time, because Max is not wrong. It was a key story element delivered in a cartoon video game.
Yeah, because you watch the opening crawl and you go, my God, the dead speak? Like, when did this happen?
Yep.
What did I miss?
Yep.
I saw The Last Jedi. And it's like, this happened 3 weeks ago in a Fortnite
Yeah, in a video
live
game.
event.
In a video game.
Okay, so Rainbow Raider and all the other Fortnite skins were there and they were dancing
Yeah.
and dabbing and whatnot. And then it was, you heard the Emperor speak. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I need to pull in my co-host.
We could go on forever.
No, this is a blast. Like, listen, anytime you got an open invite, next time you want to talk product or just Star Wars, I'd love to have you back. I mean, this was a fun conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed your time here, but I sure as hell appreciated all the stories you had to share, and
We appreciate it.
and
Thank you for having us on. It was great talking to you. It was really fun. This was a great forum.
awesome.
Any chance to talk Star Wars, we're always here for.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you go now so you can get back to the kids and dinners and all that fun stuff. But,
Yeah,
but like I said,
yeah.
awesome talking with you, Max and Tim. Thanks again. Don't forget, everyone watching, to check out the Micro Galaxy Squadron Waves series, whatever you want to call them. Target, Amazon, Walmart's, they're out there. Maybe one day on the digital retailers. But appreciate you guys. All right.
Thanks again, everyone.
May the
Thank you.
force be with you. We'll see you. All right, so that was fun. Let's see if I can get Nick in here. I know we got a bunch of people watching the show that don't typically do. So now we're going to get into what we usually do on a Tuesday, and that's kind of run through some Star Wars stuff. So let me get my co-host in here. See if we can get some things started. Do want to thank everyone that joined in. That was nice to have an active chat. Hey, there he is. We got Nick. I'm probably gonna have to change something real quick, buddy, because I had to do some cartwheels to get Max and Tim in from Jazzwares. But I just need to get your audio back, and then we'll be ready to rock here. Oh yeah, that is sounding good. Nick's coming to us. Nick's coming to us from a submarine. This is fantastic. All right, so that was cool. That was fun. Definitely, they're definitely some big time fans. There's no doubt about that, Nick. I know we went a little longer than you thought. Glad you were waiting there in the wings for us, but it was a good talk. I mean, we had over 100 people in here. The chat was going quick. But now I'm sure they'll all drop off that we're going to do our thing. Yeah. But hey, any of you new people, if you're here, we'd love for you to stick around for the last, hour, 20, hour 15 of the show. Maybe you'll dig it. Maybe you won't. If anything, give us a like, comment, sub, do what you got to do. All right. Well, because that went long, I'm not going to go ahead and get in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. All I'll say is that it's damn good. It feels like a return to form for Marvel. It's one of the best out of phases 4 and 5, and James Gunn is my hero. He knows how to do a trilogy, so that's that. All right. So what we wanted to talk about today was a little bit of new Star Wars that came out last week, right? We had Visions release, Young Jedi Adventures. We're not going to get into Young Jedi Adventures here because it truly is young. It's a great show. but it is totally meant for the little ones. I would have loved to have had Jedi Adventures back when Charlie was 2, 3, 4. But these days, I even tried to throw it on last Thursday, Nick, and within 5 minutes, she's right on the Switch playing Super Mario Brothers 1. I'm like, hey, yeah, whatever, dude, I'm out. So,
yeah, I mean, I didn't even attempt to watch those because I knew that they were very kiddie. And, I mean, honestly, like just kind of rolling into Visions talk, this also felt kind of kiddie. Like I am like this in comparison to Vision season 1, this felt way more focused on like children's adventures and like making things for like a child parent kind of relationship seemed to be the crux of a lot of these stories, which doesn't necessarily make them bad or like anything like that. In fact, I thought that they were all really well made. Just wasn't as appealing to me as Vision season 1.
Really, I'm surprised by that. I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, my general kind of assessment of season 2 was it did feel much more inclusive. You know what I mean? Like we got beyond just the Asian influence. I mean, you had the Bandits of Golak that was obviously heavily influenced from India and Bollywood and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. It was mostly kids driving the narratives, right? That's what you're saying. It wasn't as dark or deep into the lore, if you will.
Yeah, I think it was like a lot of like kid like family oriented stories, like kids with their siblings, kids with their parents, which is like great because that's what Star Wars is built for. Like from George Lucas's own mouth, he's like, Star Wars is built for kids. It's about family, and I think that like this season of Visions heavily leaned into that. And while there were like, to me, there was like a definitive kind of top 5, and then there, like in my opinion, there was like just a definitive bottom 4. I mean, I could say that like there's like the first 4 are like for me above and beyond all the rest of them, and then like the bottom 5 are just like to me just not appealing. But there was like a very clear divide of like after these, I could list the other ones in whatever order because they just didn't have that same level of appeal to me.
I mean, when I was doing the rank, which we're going to talk about here, we'll go through our 9 through 1 and we'll see if we align or not. I'm sure we'll be off on a few. But there was, I kind of, my top 2 became the top 2 because they're the ones that I identified that did move me emotionally in some capacity. So that's why they made it to the 2, but I feel like the top 5 definitely, there's arguments to be made that you could have interchanged either one, but the 2 I went with, and we'll get there, don't worry, were because I actually felt something watching them, where others, I'm not gonna lie, it was Star Wars, but some of them I'm like, okay, let's get going here, let's get to something, give me something to chew on, to dig into, because they were kind of slow. But in the end, I still like this experiment. I thoroughly love seeing how other creatives put their spin on Star Wars using what has come before them. I like that it is not tied into canon, so you can kind of do things a little more creatively, I guess. You don't have those constraints, and I think that's why you get some of the types of narratives that Vision season 1 and 2 have given us. And it does sound like season 3 is a done deal. So this is a thing these days. But overall, like, listen, I think season 2 was still pretty solid. There wasn't anything that I would consider garbage amongst the 9 episodes. But I do feel like Nick and most of the community reacted the same way. There has not been a big buzz around season 2 like there was after season 1 released.
Yeah, I think that some of it is probably due to the fact that like people, like season 1 was like all Japanese based animation studios, and a lot of the studios, like people could recognize their work from other popular anime shows and stuff like that. So, and I think with this particular season, having less of like an Asian influence in the animation studios, and less focus on like the traditional anime style of cartoon and animation. I feel like that probably, is why people had a little bit less interest. I also think that like Star Wars, like by admission of George Lucas, was like very heavily influenced by like Japanese and like Eastern cultures, and like this is a little bit further away from that. So like when you saw Vision season 1 and it was all Japanese animation studios, you felt like the soul of Star Wars there. And like there's definitely the soul of Star Wars still within these particular pieces of animation, but I just don't, like, for me personally, only like 4 of them really felt like, oh wow, these are cool, and I would watch them again.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I only marked, when we get to it, one of them to me felt very Star Wars. The other ones were Star Wars adjacent. But I kind of, again, I dig the different perspectives. I mean, the Bandits of Golak, spoiler, was my number 2. And that's the one with the Indian boy and Indian girl that had the Force.
Yeah.
And the little twisty end.
That's my third one.
Yeah,
That one to me was just like, it was like the same exact animation style as like Clone Wars and like Rebels and stuff like that, even like Bad Batch.
Right.
So it was very familiar in terms of its visuals, and I think the story told was pretty good too. A lot of these stories have the same theme, and I feel like the theme is like, you are more powerful than you think you are, especially like aimed at the little kids. Because there was a ton, like more than half of these things were like kids finding out in some way, shape, or form that they have Force powers.
Yep. And the like, balance between light and dark, and how you can't really be one or the other. You know? Yeah,
so like that, like the general themes are in line with like Star Wars. I think that they were like, they did a really good job of like translating that into like their personal stories and stuff like that from each of these animation studios. But yeah, like general impression is that season 1 for me is just like a much stronger batch than season 2 was.
I wouldn't disagree with that. But I also didn't have a bad time with season 2, and I'm down for more. So let's go ahead and get into the episodes ranking, or episodes ranked, however you want to say it. Nick, I remember last time I just kind of read my 9, and then we figured out where you had it, and then you read your 8 or something like that. So we'll kind of do it the same way. So
go with that.
All right. If you're on the stream, you'll be looking at my ranking, because I threw it up on the site, so we had some sort of visual aid for this segment. But like I said, Nick will chime in. So for me, Nick, number 9 was The Pit. The pit was the one where they literally, the Empire takes these people, makes them dig a massive hole, and then leaves them in it until the civilized folk hear their song and come and save them. And this one was 9 for me. I mean, it definitely had that anime visual style that a lot of these episodes did not, but I just found its pacing was way too slow. Which wasn't helped by not having a ton of dialogue, but it did have a good message. But overall, this one was a slog for me, The Pit.
Yeah, this one was my 8, so we're pretty close. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the only reason I put this as an 8 is because I enjoyed the visual style. Like, I enjoyed a little bit more of like a traditional, like,
the trooper design looked rad as hell. The troopers looked great.
Yeah. That looked really cool. I like I guess I like the overall story. To me, wasn't that bad, because it was like, okay, like this is what the Empire does to people. Like if you are, new to Star Wars, if you are unfamiliar with how the Empire treats people, this is what they do. They use them for slave labor, and then they abandon them to die. And I feel like that was that was very well communicated in that particular
I agree.
short.
It just took for some reason the opening, man, it just crawled. It was like, all right, let's fucking get to something. And finally, when dude leaves the hole, something happens.
I will say that for most of these, I identified pretty quickly, like, I don't really need to pay that much attention. So I just started doing other shit. Like,
so the pit got multitasked. So what was your number 9 then? What's your personal 9?
My 9 is I'm Your Mother. Basically like 7, 8, and 9 for you, or 7, 8, and 9 for me, except in different orders.
Go ahead.
I'm Your Mother, I barely watched that. Like, I saw that come up, I was like, I don't like the style of animation is impressive, and like it has like this almost like
claymation
stop motion
feel,
like claymation kind of feel to it, which is really cool. I just had no interest in this story at all. It was literally like, this was one of the ones that was like, it is a Star Wars story because you put them in Star Wars ships, but this is just like a very general, like, your mom can be cool too story. And I thought that this was just,
I'm with you on that one. I mean, obviously for someone that's into like Easter eggs and references, this episode was the best in terms of just little nuanced shit. Like, if you just look around, Nick, every scene there was an egg. I mean, even the race when the bad people, they shoot up their little antenna, it's got a little Death Star on it, it's shooting the Death Star beams at people. But I was with you when I was watching it. It didn't really pull me in. Visually, it looked great. I loved the stuff they were doing with Wedge. I loved all the Easter eggs. And really, the message of, teen embarrassment around their parents is always nice to hear and see, especially if you're a parent yourself. But I'm with you. It was, it did not suck me in whatsoever. So I Am Your Mother was my 7. The Pit was your 8. So my 8 was Owl's Song.
Yeah, that was my 7.
Go ahead. You start on Owl here.
So like my thoughts on this one is I thought that this was a very unique animation style. I enjoyed it.
100%. It reminded me of, what's that game? Unraveled.
Yeah.
With Yarny.
Like Unraveled.
Yeah.
Or
even Sackboy. What's Sackboy's game?
Little Big Planet, stuff like that, if you played those. I thought that this was really interesting. I also liked how Ao in the beginning is like a non-verbal character, and then like you get like there's a little bit of lore in there about like Kyber Crystal lore and how these people are like I enjoyed the story around the Kyber Crystals and how these people are trying to reclaim all of these like corrupted Kyber Crystals from influence of dark side Force users, and there's this one Jedi who is essentially like trying to restore them to their glory, and then like again, like it's a little kid's story because I was like trying to follow her father and stuff like that. And the only reason, basically, like the reason that I had this above The Pit and I'm Your Mother is I enjoyed the animation style more, and I thought that the story being centered around Kyber crystals and like reclaiming them was very interesting when compared to The Pit and I Am Your Mother. I just felt like that one had like the most Star Wars-esque, like rooted in the universe itself story. So that's why that was like the top of my bottom 3, I guess you would say.
Yeah, see, Al's Song for me, I don't know, maybe I'm demented. It was too cute, artsy fartsy. Like, I never really felt like there was any stakes to the episode, I mean, even when she did sneak off and get into the mine, I'm like, there's nothing bad happening here. There's no reason to be upset or worried. And I don't know. It didn't pull me in. It didn't latch in my emotions. But I agree with everything you said. I mean, it was the most unique looking visually, and like I said, it was artsy fartsy. It was high art to me. I mean, it was very well done. It was almost too soft for me, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like. When I got to it, because this was like towards the end of the run, if you're watching it
totally.
Like in order.
I think it's the last one in the list.
Yeah, I was like, man, like I got to this one, I was like, okay, like I'm interested because of the Kyber crystal angle, and I think that in terms of just like a visual style to this show, I feel like this one has the most unique visual style, maybe next to like one other one. But I was like, at this point, I was like, Man, this one really, like this season really didn't pull me in as much as the last one, and I was like half paying attention. So yeah, I mean, the bottom three for me, I'm glad that we're aligned on that bottom three. I think we're going to start to get like out of order pretty quickly here.
So at 6, then I had the Spy Dancer, so I'll go on that.
Yeah.
And see, I again, listen, I liked all these, all right? This ranking doesn't mean 9 was a piece of shit and it made me throw up. It just, I preferred some over the others. And Spy Dancer takes my 6th spot, and I really like this one for its twist. The whole, they gave you a little backstory through the flashbacks. You understand this lady's anger towards the Empire. You understand why she's doing what she's doing. You even understand why she breaks script and she's getting ready to stab that commander dead until she realizes it's her boy. So I really love the twist and the different perspective on how the rebellion could work against the Empire. I really like that this community or planet city set up an entertainment district, a theater, to do their rebellion activity, to gain intel on the Empire. So it was an interesting story of rebellion, and I also liked the twist. But without that twist, I think this one would have been pretty flat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was 2. Like, and it was a pretty it was pretty close between my top 3. This one being 2 is I love the story. I also really like, even though the visual style of this one is definitely not as like
it was super 2D,
detailed.
like it was almost old school,
Yeah.
early Disney's animation, like cell stuff.
Exactly. And I really enjoyed that, especially for how they used it with like the flourishes of the dress, and how essentially like for a while I was like, this woman has to be like some sort of latent force user. Like she is so eloquent in her movement. She can use like, it's almost like her garb was just like an extension of her body. Yeah. I loved the I like this one, and like as soon as I saw this one, I was like, this is going to be my 1 or 2 for sure. And it ended up being it after I watched the whole thing. The story I thought was fantastic. Having that twist at the end with her son being the one, like being the commander that she was essentially trying to assassinate at some point. I like the subtleties of like how she's like tossing these tracking beacons and how she uses the motions of her dance.
She even got one on this thing she gave to her son. Her closing line is like, "He will always be with me now," or something like that. So
yeah. So like I thought that just from a storytelling perspective, I thought it was really well done. Because one thing that we always talk about, even on this show, week to week, is like we like to see like stormtroopers and Imperial stuff like that on their day off. Like, what are they doing?
You got it right now. They take their helmets off and go watch a show. But keep their armor on. They keep their armor on, but they'll go watch a show.
But I think that this was like a really good slice of that side of things that we never really get to see. And this was definitely in my top 2 because I just enjoyed everything about it, even though the animation wasn't like, detailed. I thought it was used.
Fair enough. We're oceans apart on that one. So I'll move to my 5, and when we get to my 2, I'll talk. 5, I had Screecher's Reach, and like you said to start, really the top 5 could be jumbled around, interchanged, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. Screecher's Reach, the reason it's at 5 for me, though, is, again, it had a slow start. It was starting to lose me for a bit until they get to the cave and you get the witch, and then you start to realize, like, okay, I kind of see what's going on, and then you're like, oh, shit. This was a Sith guiding this little kid the whole time. This has nothing to do with the Jedi. This is a very interesting way to show how the Sith can ensnare the innocent and make them take the choice or make the easy choice. Because that's really what this episode was about. I mean, it showed us how people like Anakin, Count Dooku, can be influenced by the dark side without even knowing it. And then when the choice is presented to them, they take the easy way out, which is to fully succumb to the dark side, like our little lady friend here. So, but Nick, there again, the reason it's a 5 for me, the opening was just a bit too slow. It didn't suck me in right away.
Yeah, so this is my 5 as well.
Hey, look at that.
We're aligned on this one. I enjoyed the twist at the end with the Sith, but yeah, I mean, like, to me, this and my 6 are kind of close. It was just so slow. I was like, where is this going? Like, what's this screaming shit happening?
What was your 6?
My 6 is your 1.
Okay.
And like,
all
it's not even, yeah. So like, we got a while to go for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this one was okay. Like, that's how I'll put it. Like, it was okay. The animation style was nothing special for me. It's stuff that I've seen in like Cartoon Network type of shows. The twist at the end with the Sith was awesome. But honestly, like, up until the moment where this, like, the main character kind of like stays in the cave when the other ones leave, I was like, just get to the point. I was like, get to where we're going here. Like, we got 14 minutes. Like, make something happen.
The pacing was off. Like, I think the idea was good. The narrative was good. It was paced too unevenly. There were, like I said, the beginning doesn't really suck you in. Then you get to this cave and you're like, okay, all right. And Nick's right. Then it just gets all dark and you're going, okay, well, now what? And then eventually she murders the old crone in there. But yeah, there you go. 5 and 5. How about that? The SWTS bros aligned on that one.
Aligned on 1.
But I love that my 1 is your 6 and my 2 is your 5. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 4 then, Nick, is Journey to the Dark Head. And this was the one that was the most anime inspired to me, as in true to form anime, the angst, the emo characters, the over hypeness of everything, the crazy eyes, it was anime with a capital A or manga with a capital M. I forget what the difference is. Isn't one
manga is the book.
There you go. So I'm sure I'll get killed here, but it also, to me, Nick, felt the most Star Wars-y. You know what I mean? Like, it had, to me, the most true to Star Wars tale. We were legitimately dealing with, Jedi and Sith and the concepts that make up those two sides of the Force. I loved getting the insights into these the little girl that grew into the bigger girl, whatever the fuck they were doing in that temple with the stones, the archivers. It looked great. It had a great, take on the balance between light and dark and how you can't just have one or the other. They are always going to be there, rivaling each other. But like I said, the Journey to the Dark Head was the most Star Wars-like. And to me, Nick, it felt most like Vision Season 1.
Yeah, this is my 1. And really for all the reasons that you named. I think it had the best action scene. The fight between the kid Jedi who was sent there. I mean, like, what's crazy to me is, like, it seems like the Jedi sent this kid here to die. Like, we know
the Jedi aren't the best at managing their order, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, the Jedi almost sent this kid here to die. I love the visual style, obviously, because it harkens back to a little bit more of the Vision Season 1. You were saying a little bit more traditional anime style. I like the story that was being told too. One of the themes that we mentioned kind of right up front was the balance, like realizing that balance is not just light in the world, that it is a true balance between light and dark. In this story of, like, hey, if we cut the head off of the dark side statue, then we can end things. And then both of your protagonists coming to realize that, like, you can't get rid of darkness. Darkness is just a part of the fabric of reality, and you have to learn how to balance those two things. I thought the fight between the kid and the Sith, who essentially, from what we could tell in the story or in the episode, was like this Sith master had been like pulling this kid towards the dark side for a while.
Well, yeah, because they had that initial, not really, it wasn't a duel because he just kicked his ass, but the kid was with his master. His master died at the hands of the Sith master, and the Sith master was like, hey, you need to come with me, stabbed him a little bit, and so that they definitely had a history together. But like you said, it does seem that the master kind of marked this Jedi and was keeping a close eye.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, this was like head and shoulders above the rest.
Gotcha.
To me, like this wasn't even close. I would have liked to see 3 more episodes of this. Like, give me some backstory. Give me, like, what is this place? What's the 2 heads? Like, where is this?
Yeah.
What is this influence?
I feel you
and
there.
like,
it's like that I forget the name of the episode from season 1, but remember there was one episode in particular that felt like a mini movie, if not a start to a trilogy, to where at the end of it you're like, yeah, I want to see the next one and the next one and the next one. I want to see where this shit goes, right? It's where they were all trying to come there and get the lightsabers working again, and a bunch of Sith showed up trying to... Either way, I'm with you. But it wasn't my number 1, so... no big deal, right? They're just opinions. We all got one, just like assholes, and they usually stink. So moving on to my number 3, I went with Sith, and... I'll be honest here. I got caught up in the visuals. It's fucking wild, man. I mean, it's like up there with Into the Spider-Verse type of zaniness when it comes to not having a defined animation style. It was everywhere. It was like watercolor, just pure sketches, and it felt like CG. But its presentation sucked me in early, kept me engaged. I wouldn't say it had the best story. It was similar to some of the others, hey, Light and Dark. It was kind of cool that she was a former Sith, rebranded as something different, going with that yellow-orange lightsaber, teaching her old master a lesson. But really, I think Sith is up there purely for the visual insanity that it presented.
Yeah, so this is my 4, so we're pretty close on this one. I enjoyed the visual style. I think it took, again, like with a lot of these, it's just like there's a lot of drag in the beginning. And when I first started watching it, I was like, I don't really enjoy how do I put this? I don't really like the style that's out there. Like, I don't really like the ton of white space that had like no definition to where you were, because it was just hard.
It was like
for me
she was
to
on a
track
sketch pad at one point.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not a huge fan of this. We'll see where it goes, essentially. And yeah, I mean, I was really kind of waiting for it to like pick up and see like where it was going to move. And then once it kind of did get into like the story of the Sith and everything like that, I was more of a fan of it. But overall, I did think that like the visual style was fun. The fight at the end with like the Sith that are like trying to pull her back into the fray, I thought that was fun as well.
Oh, he was cool looking too. I mean, if anything, they created some badass looking Sith in Star Wars Vision too. I mean, the guy in Darkhead, the dude in the Bandits, this guy in Sith, all very unique looking dark side users, if you will, especially the Inquisitor from Golak, which is my number 2. And we kind of talked about this one earlier. I honestly think the disconnect between you and I has to do with the fact that I am a dad now. And if it comes to like family-based episodes where families have to kind of sacrifice or make the hard choices, it just resonates with me more than it probably would have without becoming a father. So I enjoyed Bandits. Again, it was Bollywood Star Wars. I mean, everything from the presentation to the action to the music. That's something I've never seen before. I dug it. I'd be down for more. It had a great twist with the old lady being a dual wielding lightsaber Jedi badass. That was pretty great. But Nick, what did it for me, And again, this is where the old white guy dad stuff kicks in, the old softy emotions. It's at the very end where the brother who knows what he was there to do, but the little one wasn't, where the brother, kind of says, yes, we need to essentially break up the last bit of our family to keep you safe and to ensure that you can maximize your potential as a Force user. And it's that family moment, that choice, that sacrifice on the part of the brother, the bandit. I was like, damn, that kind of hits a little bit. I felt something there. So that's why I had this at 2.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, Bandits of Golak was 3, so we're pretty close on this one. I enjoyed the animation style. I thought that this one was overall really strong. Like the animation style, while very reminiscent of stuff that we've already seen, was cool. Obviously, the fight at the end between the Jedi, I think her name was Rugal, and then the Inquisitor, I thought was really well executed.
Awesome. Yep.
I think that the story between the brother and the sister were great, and her that's like kind of another theme too, was like, kids going off to follow their own path. We saw it in Screecher's Reach. We saw it in Aru. We see it in this one, kind of like these kids doing their own thing and kind of making decisions and choices that will lead them along their own path. I thought that was really cool. And I just thought that like the presentation of like where they were in the galaxy was also top notch and really well done. So
another desert planet for you, friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
complete with sandstorms.
They made it work. So, yeah, no, I mean, I was impressed by this for sure.
So here's where we have a large divide, and again, I'll explain. In the Stars is my number 1 for reasons. Another unique mix of animation. Like the main story felt kind of CG, little clay in there, a little slower frame rate. It felt like at times. But then to me, Nick, I loved the little ditty where the little girl did the cave paintings, if you will, with that magic dust. And I loved how then that became like a little animated backstory to explain that these people, they seem to have a connection to the Force, at least this family. The mother identifies that she needs to go and fight back against the Empire. That pisses off the older daughter. Mom dies, so on and so forth. And then just, the little one kind of pushing the older, her sister, like, come on, this is what mom would have done. Let's go. Let's fight back. I loved all that. And the older daughter pushing back, like, shut up, idiot. Mom was stupid. But then it gets the moment where they infiltrate the base. Shit goes sideways. They're about to get out. And then the little one's like, you know what? Fuck this. We need to fight back. And, I know she's stupid and she could have gotten both killed, but it's that. And then the older sister finally, kind of realizing, like, you know what? She's right. We can do this. Our mom was right. We can do this together. And then you have the hand moment where she too realizes she's got the Force. And then they stand tall against the same AT-ST that killed their mother and the rest of the villagers. And working together, they take it out. I don't know what it is, man, but just seeing that family, knowing what happened to their mom, knowing the resistance of the older daughter who learned a lesson through the younger daughter, it once again resonated with me emotionally, like to the point where I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, you guys did it, and that's why it's number 1. I mean, it just like I said, as we were recapping the whole season, my 1 and 2 are 1 and 2 solely because they were the ones that made me feel something outside of just, I like Star Wars.
Yeah, I think for me, this one was like, I just got bored with it. With to me, like Screecher's Reach and In the Stars, like these are kind of like in the same area. Like it was too focused on the little kid, and like because I don't have a kid, I was just like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like little kids.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I know that's what it is, and I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I just my life stage right now, and as Bat's saying here in the chat, it just, Nick, anytime you see these little fuckers, you instantly identify that that could be my kid one day, and what would my kid do if I was gone? That type of shit. So it gets a little heavy, non-Star Warsy. That's what I said. It got me emotionally beyond just my fandom for Star Wars, and that's why it ended up here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely is more like pointed to like people who are like, you know, parents and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I thought the visual style was good. I actually thought that the visual style on this one was better than Screecher's Reach. But like similar to the Aru one, it's like the little kid shit, like to me, it just doesn't have that pull.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, because you would think Ayu's song would be my thing. It's a dad and his daughter. That is me and Charlie. But for some reason, zero emotional ties to that one. I was like, all right, this is too cutesy, artsy fartsy. I'm moving on. In the stars, I think it provided the most direct allegory to real life too. I mean, pollution, you know, fascism, all that type of stuff. It was a direct, hey, look, if you do this, if you pollute, you cloud the sky, you can't see the stars, yada, yada, yada. So it had a nice message. But there you go. Yeah. That's the SWTS Bros Star Wars Vision Season 2 episode rank segment. You know, outside of our ones, I felt like we were pretty in close line. You know what I mean? Like our ones were the only ones that were a few slots away. So not too bad. Not too bad. You're doing all right, Nick. You're watching things properly.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do for season 3, if they're going to do like another sort of like region of.
Would you want continuations at this point? Because I was kind of wanting a continuation of the Ninth Jedi from season 1. Thanks to Bat for telling me the name of that episode.
I really would like to see some continuations, like
I almost Darkhead or stuff like that.
Yeah, like I wish that they would use this as almost like a pitch method where it's like, hey, you know, we're going to give all of these different animation studios a chance to really tell their Star Wars story in their way, and then we'll pick 1 or 2 per season to like, hey, like we're going to give you 8 episodes to tell this story more fleshed out. And yeah. I think that would be really interesting, and like really turn it into a way of like finding new creators and not relying solely on like, because right now Star Wars animation has been essentially the same for 2 decades. Like it hasn't changed much. Like of course the visuals have gotten better, but like the animation style is the
style
same.
Wise it's stayed pretty much at Rebels at this point. Like that's the model.
Like, you know, the stories that are being told are all kind of like chronologically following along through you know, where particular, you know, eras left off and where time periods left off. But I really would like to see like something like the Ninth Jedi, something like you know, Journey to the Darkhead, and just like expand on that. Like tell me a story that I haven't heard before, you know? Because I feel like that is what's going to draw people in. Like if you want to attract a new type of audience to Star Wars, you're not going to attract it based off of like, hey, look, we're making Bad Batch season 3. And they're like, well, what's that about? It's like, well, it's the time between these 2 movies. It's like, yeah, but like, what, like, who cares? Like, you're telling me like this show is purely about like, you know, only stuff that like super hardcore fans would even remotely care about. Like if you introduce like a completely separated story that is presented in a new visual style and that's presented in like a way that appeals to people outside of the traditional Star Wars animation style, then you will kind of pull in a new audience, get them interested and see if you can translate that interest to other Star Wars properties. Because right now, I think the biggest problem for Star Wars is attracting new people. I think The Mandalorian did that, and then I think that everything after The Mandalorian has not done that. I don't think that there's there's been a real big point of attraction for new audience.
No, you're right. I mean, it's kind of how it's been generationally. You almost need a trilogy to bring in the next generation of fans. You had the OT, the prequels, and then the sequels. Guess we'll see next year. But like I said, it is an official announcement, which means they're already working on it. So you should expect Visions S3 in 2024. All right, we got a few low-hanging fruit here. You'll like this one. And the only reason I'm talking about Nick is just to remind everyone, like, you just please, media literacy. Ask me first before you get excited. But this was all over the internet last week. Empire ran it as an exclusive, Nick. And the exclusive they had comes from Tony Gilroy about Andor Season 2, that the last 3 episodes will tell the last 3 days before Rogue One. And the reason I'm even talking about this is because, hello, people, right here in our article, you can click on a link that goes back to, I think, November of 2022.
So he said that already.
He says the exact same fucking thing. The exact same thing. He said that. Right here. They're like, blah, 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 blah. I know he has it here. The last one will be the last. I don't know what it is, 3-4 days before the beginning of Rogue One. It's like, what the fuck? Dude, I'm telling you, Empire exclusive. It's on Reddit. It's getting upvoted. I think it was in our Discord. And I'm going, now I'm compelled to post this just because the rest of the world thinks this is news, when literally, if you're paying attention to the SWTS months ago, we told you this is what Tony said. It's his plan. That's what it's always been. He's literally going to have Cassian walking up to go on to the mission to go meet Tivik on the Rings of Caffeine. I mean, it's like, hello, okay? It's covered. People, come on, man. I mean, just titles and exclusives. Everyone like, oh my God, do you believe this shit?
It's like, bro, I don't know what else to say other than, like, he said that multiple times.
But somehow it's an exclusive 5 months later on Empire. So there you go, people. This is what you get when Star Wars news slows down. Somehow you can just make up exclusive based on things that were said months ago to other outlets. So just in case you forgot, Andor Season 2, the last 3 episodes are going to walk us right up to Rogue One. Oh my God! What a reveal!
Yeah.
Assholes.
It's just like, come on, man. That was definitely talked about at length a while ago.
Like, people humans these days, for some reason, can't retain information. I don't know. Like, I'm really not a skilled individual. If I read something, I typically remember it and can recall it, except when it comes to computer science. All right, so this next one, Nick, we spend a few minutes because I want to get kind of your idea on what Dave could be talking about here. So Filoni sat down, talked to Empire again. They're getting all the crazy exclusives these days. And, they were asking about his movie, the Mandoverse movie. What could it be about? And here's what he said, and then I'll kind of ask you a question to kind of think or gauge what you think his defining moment may be. All right. So again, Empire's asking Dave if his film would be a culmination of the events featured in the Mandoverse series. So Mando, Book of Boba, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. And here's what Dave had to say. Culmination is an interesting word. The way I look at it, there are small stories, and then there's the big story of the day too. A New Hope, Empire and Return of the Jedi tell the important parts of the tale that really define the history of the period. There are all kinds of sub-stories underneath that. We've been building all these small stories. To me, a theatrical experience has to have a big idea, a monumental moment in the time period that changes what's happening. What Tony has done in Andor and what we did in Rebels, everything then changes when Luke blows up the Death Star. You're looking for those moments that define an era, and that's what the films really should be about, whether it's characters coming together or a defining moment. So obviously, Nick, they pressed him on what is this defining moment you're thinking of in your film, and clearly he said nothing. He's like, hey, there are little things along the way that I built across different mediums, all in preparation for things that come later. So for me, the point of talking about this, what does young Nick think Dave could be cooking up for an era-defining moment set during the Mandoverse? What is that?
I mean, to me, it has to focus around Thrawn, and it has to be like getting like his downfall, like his fall.
That's where I'm at.
Towards the end of this era, and then I mean, because in my mind it goes, fall of the Empire, official Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
And then we know that there's gotta be some, like, now based off of how they've built the Mandoverse, there has to be something that happens between now and the rise, like the true rise of the New Republic, and then the rise of the First Order.
Right, because
so to me,
everyone's got to remember the New Republic does not technically fall until Starkiller Base blows it the fuck out of the galaxy. All right.
Yeah.
The New Republic is still existing by the beginning of The Force Awakens. So, yeah, I mean, we're not going to, as Nick is saying, this Dave's defining moment is not going to be the fall of the New Republic. As Nick said, I think it's going to be the fall of Thrawn, the death of Thrawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's going to be pretty similar to Endgame. Let's be honest. Like,
right.
It's going to be all these forces coming together to take out one big bad guy.
Yeah, and we're not talking Thrawn's arrival, right? We're talking Thrawn's been here. He's been featured in some of the shows, but in the movie, the defining moment is going to be the final showdown.
Yeah, like the showdown between all of these, like all of your allied forces that come together with, Din and Grogu and who they're pulling in, and then the Mandalorians, and then the
Rebels,
Ahsoka and her, all of them.
Cal
so it's gonna be all of them. Maybe they fucking throw Cameron Monaghan in there.
I'm hoping he dies by the end of Jedi Survivor. I still haven't beat it yet, but
I still haven't bought it yet. So.
Well, I reduced. I was like, fuck this shit. I mean, the combat is so atrocious. I reduced to Padawan. Our boy Sir Dork, Nick, he hit one of the game-ending bugs. So yay for Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw all of the stuff around it. Like, I saw all of there's really bad bugs, there's really bad performance issues, and I was like, why the fuck would I play this game right now?
Just wait for a few more patches. The thing is, though, the story is cool because they're looping in the High Republic and talking some stuff you typically wouldn't get during Cal's era. So I can't completely say the game is not great. It is. It's just until they change the combat, I'm never going to embrace this franchise like some super fans of it. It's just it makes no sense. Anyways, back to Dave. All right, so it's got to be the death of Thrawn, because what else major era defining moment could happen? It's not going to be the rise of the First Order. We kind of see some of that in Star Wars Resistance and then into TFA. So the only thing I can think of, unless you can dig up some legend shit, would be the fall of Thrawn and maybe the true end to the remnant, if you will. But I guess
like the remnant empire.
I guess technically that never ends because Palpatine hangs on and the First Order, and then it's the final order, and fuck my face, somehow he's returned.
Yeah, in this instance, I think it has to be. One, Thrawn is going to have a massive fleet, regardless of how he gets it. Like, he's going to have like a fleet that can literally like overpower the individual pieces. Like, he's going to have a fleet so large that like Mandalorians on their own aren't going to be able to take it out. Phoenix Squadron on their own, even with the return of Ezra, if that happens, ain't going to be able to take them out. So it's going to be this whole moment of like everybody's got to coalesce, everybody's got to come together. New Republic, Mandalorians, Phoenix, like all of these disparate pieces have to like put themselves together and say like, hey, we have a common cause, and the common cause is take out this guy.
Yeah, get the blue guy dead. Like how much damage does he wreak on the galaxy before this moment, you think?
I mean,
Like, does he get close to Coruscant and hold it under siege, or do they keep him in the mid or outer rim?
I mean, here's the thing: is we know that the New Republic is based off of the Hosnian system.
Well, no. Well, according to Mando season 3, now they're still on Coruscant, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, by the time that we get to like the sequel trilogy, they're on the Hosnian system.
Right.
That has to happen for some reason.
So you
like,
think
they're not just going to be like?
You think maybe Thrawn is the impetus for that?
It could be. I mean, like, whether it be like they literally just shell the fuck out of Coruscant.
How
to the
fucking
point where it's
crazy
just
would
like a
that
slag of
be,
a
dude?
planet.
How
Like,
crazy would that be if they the end of Coruscant? How fucking wild would that be?
I mean,
I don't think it's going to happen
because
I mean, do they mention Coruscant in the sequels at all?
I don't think so.
Man,
I mean,
that would be
maybe,
fucking wild. Like if Coruscant just got so fucked that literally they had to move.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that like you need something like that. Like, you can't just have this guy show up and it's like, oh shit, he's got a bunch of ships, we have to fight him. Like, he has to do something that is like, okay, this dude can like is on the level of what the Empire could do. Like, this guy can fucking take out a planet. This guy can literally lay waste to,
and probably more efficiently because he's Thrawn and not one of the power hungry idiots.
Yeah, you know, like, it's like, this is not like a Death Star level thing where it's like, okay, well, if we blow up the one Death Star, then it's over. Like, we got it. Like, this guy is going to, like, and I think that you really, like, in this instance, I really do think that you need to involve Timothy Zahn early. Like, you need to get him involved. If this is the story that you're going for, is like, hey, we're going to tell this story about, like, Thrawn actually showing up.
Yeah.
And
I
fucking
think
shit
they are,
up.
man. They've lifted enough from his stuff already. I mean, Palion is a Zahn character.
Yeah, so like, you need to involve him because he has that know-how. He knows how Thrawn would do things, and he, like, essentially the military tactician that Thrawn is Timothy Zahn, because he thought of all this shit. And like, you need to have him come into the galaxy and not be like a one-shot wonder where it's like, he blasted this one thing, we all go after him, and then we take him out easy. Like, in my mind, Thrawn comes into this galaxy and he has like he starts to wrest power.
Yeah,
like he has like sections of this galaxy that he is in full control.
Does he
of.
take out any named characters?
I mean, I would hope so. I really do hope so, because that. There are questions about like where this person is in the sequel trip. Where are all these people? Like, I can see him being able to, you know, take out a large swath of Mandalorians. Like, if I'm Thrawn, the first people I'm going after are the Mandalorians. Not even a question. Like, these are the strongest.
Because I mean, Jedi still aren't a factor, right? It's fucking Luke and Ahsoka and Ezra somewhere.
And he knows by this point that the New Republic is demilitarizing. So he's like, why would I even go after them? Like I'll deal with them later. They don't even have anything to come after me with. So like, if I'm him, I'm like, they just retook Mandalore. I'm going right there. I'm fucking, and I'm not just glassing the planet. I'm killing every Mandalorian that I can see.
Yeah, you call up Exegol and be like, "Hey, Sheev, I know you got a few more decades, but can I borrow those Star Destroyers with Death Star lasers on them real quick?"
Yeah, I mean, it's a like, to me, that's the move, and like, you really have to make it feel like if we don't do something soon, he could take over the whole galaxy.
All right.
Because if it's like a Moff Gideon thing where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's like, he's like a threat, but like, is he really that much of a threat? No. Like, yeah, like 15 people took care of like Gideon's like big plot, and now he's kind of like thrown to the side.
15 Mandos in a crashing light cruiser. That's all it took.
Yeah,
to
like
take
that's
him
it.
out.
That's all it took. So like, they really need to make it seem like Thrawn is a galaxy-wide threat.
All right, so sticking with this, I like this question from Nova Toymation. Do you think Ahsoka dies in the movie? In Tross, we hear her voice like she's already one with the Force.
I know, and like, this goes back to the Dave thing. Dave being like, oh, well, just because you heard her voice doesn't mean she's dead. It's like, okay, yeah,
Well,
whatever.
that's his
sure,
baby, man. That's like his toy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about killing her off.
And like maybe at that time, like he was, maybe at that time he was like not convinced that she needs to die. I do think that there would be like one, I think Ezra is toast. Even if he's not toast already, I think he should die.
Yeah, why not? He's been off the map for many, many years anyways. Yeah. It's like they don't need him.
Like you bring him back in and you're like, you get the hype of bringing him back in, but also like, what better way for him to go out than in like the ultimate battle to like take down his
like his master did. It would be that the symbiotic nature of Star Wars, the parallels, right? It always repeats itself. So Ezra, he already did try to sacrifice himself, and he technically did, just not to the death. But yeah, I could see that. All right.
Ahsoka, I could see going out too, because like we have to figure out like what characters hold use beyond this, or like what characters do you need to keep around beyond this? And the answer is none of them. So technically, you could kill every main character in the Mando.
The death of the Mandoverse, Dave Filoni, coming to theaters summer 2026.
Because like truly, it wouldn't matter.
You're
like,
right, and we always ask this stuff. Is like, if you've got these forces out there, like a Yoda, or a Bo-Katan, or a Din, they might have been a little bit older, definitely not Din Grogu. What the fuck are they doing? Do they wait till Lando goes around and they show up in that cluster fuck flotilla of ships? Or what? Like what are we doing here?
Yeah. And like, that's the that's the hard part about like writing your beginning and your end before your middle.
What if the opening of, like, whenever Thrawn makes it back to the known galaxy, it's just like a real quick, cheap scene where he's flying by Mandalore and you just see like this big laser just blow it up. He's like, all right, we got that done. Moving on to the next planet. It's like just taking care of story points. We don't have to worry about Bo-Katan, the armor, none of them. Oh, Din and Din Grogu are on the planet too. They're all gone.
I mean, go for it, because like to me,
just rolling in like, all right,
they're
take that one out.
Cannon fodder.
Take that one out.
Like they're all cannon fodder, unless they choose to like extend the character life cycles for these guys. And the thing is like for some of them you can't. You just run up against like time.
Bo would be pushing 80, I believe, if she made it to the sequels. Yeah,
Bo would be old. I mean, Din would probably be in his mid-60s.
Easy. I mean, I think we placed him and Boba in their early 40s, late 30s. Yeah. So add another 30 years of that. Yeah, they're pushing 70.
Oh, yeah, he's in his 70s. Easy. So, like, these guys, like, these people aren't going... Like,
let's get the wheelchairs motorized up.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. So, like, in my head, like, take out as many of them as you can, because they're not going to be around for you to use them in the sequel trilogy timeline, unless you just want to say like, okay, well, we took out Thrawn and then we're going to tell stories with these characters after that time period is over and like ride them off into the sunset in some way before you get to the true sequel timeline. But like, in my opinion, Ahsoka's gotta die. Like, she has to, unless somehow you fold her back into the Rey stuff as a living character. I don't know how you would do that at this point, but like if Filoni is truly that attached to that character, I don't know.
I'm with you, man. I'm pretty sure she's got to be toast. It just it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, she is a character that has been active in rebellion since she left the Jedi Order. Why would she then just stop and allow Leia to get persecuted? Why would she not get mixed up with the Resistance? It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. For 40 years, she's been in like
a freedom fighter,
an active rebel, freedom fighter, and then like all of a sudden, like she's
fuck
gone.
It, I'm done.
Like,
I helped you with Thrawn. It's time for me to retire. Fuck the rest of you. I'm out of here.
Yeah, like I'm out. I'm taking a vacation.
She's going to Neamos to hang out with the ghost of Cassian.
Yeah, and then like Mando's is another big question. Like I could see the storyline for Mando's going like, well, they became isolationists again, and they really just don't want to fuck around with anybody. Like that's a possibility. Is like they like that's one way you could explain it. Is like, well, they're done dealing in the issues of the greater galaxy.
They're focused on
the
horticulture of Mandalore and how they can grow the gardens again. They can't fuck around with war games anymore. It's time to rebuild the society. Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's the direction they choose to go with Mandos, which would kind of make sense. Din and Grogu, you gotta something has to be done about them as well, because there's no way that they don't try to help. For them, I mean, it's tough. For them, Grogu kind of has to witness Din die, right? I mean, it's going to happen regardless because of the genetics of the green little people species, and they can live hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, that's what Master Luke was telling him. Like, listen, I know you like this Din guy. I know you want to go back, but you got to understand, you are going to lose a lot of people in your life based on your genealogy. So you may want to take the Jedi creed instead, where we kind of shun those types of bonds, because you're just going to get your ass kicked emotionally over and over and over again throughout your 900 years of life.
Nova Toymation here saying, or if Ahsoka dips into the unknown space they're setting up. So but it's the same problem. Like if Ahsoka, it would still be Ahsoka just deciding I'm done helping people. I've been doing it
and look how well
years.
Everyone reacted to Luke Skywalker taking that stance in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like people wanted to slit their wrists. They wanted to burn down Rian Johnson's house because he portrayed Luke, someone they thought was always hopeful, a do-gooder, as someone is like, you know what, I fucked up so bad, I'm done.
Yeah, and I mean, even to this point too, she's been doing it way longer than Luke. She was doing it before Luke was alive.
Yes.
So it was out of character for Luke. You could say it would be really out of character for Ahsoka. Ahsoka not once, even in the Mandoverse, is still hunting down Thrawn's
she freed a town. I mean, she freed Corvus from Morgan Elsbeth just to do it.
She's not just going to dip out and be like, this got a little too hairy for me, so I'm just going to slide into the unknown regions, or I'm going to take a trip through the world between worlds.
I hit 65, my pension kicks in, I'm out. Yeah. Send me my credits.
And Togrutas, I do believe, have an extended lifespan when you compare them to humans and stuff like that.
Sure, why not? They definitely have better looking skin.
Yeah, so she's gonna be around longer, and that's so I think she has to die. I'll just put it I don't know how else to explain it. They can live 90 years, so roughly a human lifespan, a little bit longer. So I mean, even to that point, I mean, she's probably getting towards the end of her. She's in her middle age right now, So it's not like her sticking around is I need to extend my life to the maximum. I think she's got to go.
Yeah, because she's a few years younger than Anakin, so she's gonna be a little bit older than Din Djarin's and the Boba Fett's of the world, maybe 5 years older.
Yeah, so she's probably in her late 40s, early 50s, somewhere around there. Yeah, I don't know. I think she's got to go. I think Mon Mothma at some point.
Fucking dead.
She's
dead.
She's got to go.
Tava dead.
She's got to go.
Trapper Wolf dead.
And hey, man, what will be interesting
IG-11
is
dead.
Who do you pull in? Who do you pull in from the OT? Do you go back to the well and do you pull in Luke? Do you pull in Han? Do you pull in Leia? Do you pull in all of these characters that would be there for a galactic extinction level event like this?
That is a good question, because you are right. You would have to think if Thrawn returns, you would have to think the heroes of the rebellion would be somewhat engaged, right? Especially considering Leia is the one already bitching in the New Republic Senate that we can't fully disarm. We can't do this. So much so they kick her ass out. Think about that. One of the heroes of the rebellion, a true architect from Leia's perspective, the New Republic kicks her ass out of the Senate.
Yeah. So
okay. All right. Well, it just sounds like Bat's telling me Dave has hinted at Ahsoka dying. Ashley made some comment about her end in a recent interview with Dave there, and he dead stops and looks at the camera.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with like all of these characters. Like people, I know it like sucks for characters to die, but like
the fact she's speaking to Rey means she has some sort of connection after her physical form, so we could always see her as a spirit, right?
Yeah.
No one's ever truly gone. Just remember what Luke says. No one's ever truly gone.
Nobody dies in Star Wars.
Good stuff. Let's go ahead and round on home here for this marathon episode for myself. So you know what time it is, everybody. It's time for the fan segment. That's right. We're one of the only dumbass Star Wars fan podcasts out there that dedicate a segment to its own fans. You know how we do it? We got it's a two-pronged affair. We start with the question of the week, which you can get the prompt on Instagram Tuesday mornings at Star Wars Time Show. Check the stories. Check the profile grid. You never know what we're going to ask. We try to theme it around the weekly discussion. So this week, Nick, what do you think we're talking about? We're talking visions. That's right.
Visions.
We polled the fandom. What did they think about Star Wars Visions? Did they have a favorite? Did they have a least favorite? Nobody knows. Nobody wants to share. I'm just trying to find the damn screen to bring it up while I'm vamping here, and it doesn't look like it's going to let me. So hold on a second. Go ahead, Nick. Say some stuff.
All right. Say some stuff. So, yes, our thoughts on Visions are pretty clear, Season 2. So if you missed that, go back, rewind the episode, and we give you our full breakdown of our positioning, our ranks for these. And based off of the comments on the Instagram post, doesn't look like there were too many people that like jumped out and watched all of Visions immediately. We got some responses, but it wasn't an overwhelming.
There it is. Thank you for the vamping, good buddy. That's right. Question of the week. What was your favorite, least favorite short from Star Wars Vision Season 2? And guess what? It was a dud, Nick. It was one of the old, let's just capture the whole damn comment feed. So go ahead, my friend.
Yes. First up is at hitboy_0124. He says, for my part, it's I Am Your Mother by Aardman Studio. It's very funny. Hey, that just goes to show everybody's taste is different because that was my last one. So I'm glad that Hitboy enjoyed I Am Your Mother. Next up, Mando Mugshot says only up to episode 4, so can't comment on a whole. As fun as they are, however, they just don't feel like Star Wars, even more so than the original season. So it seems like Mando Mugshot doesn't have a favorite at all. He just doesn't think they feel like Star Wars.
He's putting in the time. That's all we can ask of a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, no, he's working his way through. Nova Toymation, he says, I'm only up to episode 6, but so far, Journey to the Dark Head was my favorite. I feel like it had the best condensed story of the shorts so far and really dug the animation style.
I get that. You know why Nova's only up to episode 6? He dropped a fantastic stop motion last week, Nick, that I reacted to. It was... It's fucking Boba Fett in his bacta tank. He has a shark, and he can't get out. And the end is just like... it's just like this little turd floating towards him, and at the end, it gives him like a little boop on his neck. It is fucking fantastic. Check him out, Nova Toymation on Instagram. Big fan of the stop motion because he's got that toilet humor down. All right, moving on to the next one.
Yes, 2797 Studios says, gotta say, my favorite was Sith. I thought the art was stunning. There are a few good ones, but overall, I think season 1 was a lot stronger. I mean, Sith definitely ranked up there for both of us as well. It was my 4, it was Matt's 3. We both agreed on the animation style.
Sith would be fun on like a psychedelic, I think. A few of these episodes would be fun on psychedelics.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I mean, Sith, strong episode. And then Clone War 501st says, I really enjoyed Screecher's Reach, love the animation style and the story with the twist. But as I am from Ireland, it was great to see some Irish heritage, as in the Banshee brought into Star Wars, but not done in a way that was Hollywood Irish fake accents.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love that he typed the Irish accent in there. That's fantastic. Irish. Top of the morning to you, lassie. Right.
Overall, whole season was very cool. So, like, what I like about what Clone War 501st did was it really brought something to light that, like, even Matt and I could not have told you about. Like, we did not know that there was a lot of Irish heritage, Irish storytelling that was built into that story. And that's what I think makes this season of Visions a little bit more interesting, is that it's not like season one, all Japanese studios clearly pulling from Japanese culture. Totally. This one, a lot of different influences. Like we were saying, like
Nick, some people would describe this season as being woke. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I guess you could say that. East Indian heritage with the
Irish.
What was it?
I can't get over the Irish, man. That is
the Irish. Yeah, I mean, East Indian heritage is in there. You have Irish. You have Spanish American heritage with the Into the Stars one, with their their wall paintings and stuff like that.
Oh,
There's a lot of different cultural influences that go into it, which makes it enjoyable if you're looking at it from that lens. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm a big fan.
All right, sorry. This is why we keep this segment, because every once in a while it gets me to laugh at just completely stupid shit. Like it was a well put comment, but the fact that Clone War 501 ST tried to type out the Irish accent the way Americans say it, that brilliant. Love it. Thank you, Clone War 501 ST.
Indeed. So good stuff there. Thank you all for responding.
All right, here we go. Back to it.
And then now we're moving into our top 5 Star Wars fan arts features of the week. This week done by Matt, because honestly, I had so much shit going on that it just completely fucking slipped my mind. I had my closing on my house today. We were packing yesterday.
How'd that go? You got the monies?
We got the monies. The monies are in the bank.
So
that's
you guys you moved this weekend, or does that not start yet?
No. So here's here's the rest of my week. Tomorrow we have an inspection on the new house, and then I have 3 work meetings. Then on Thursday we have our punch walkthrough for the new house, and then I have 2 freelance meetings. And then Friday, Friday's pretty chill.
Oh, shit.
So not
you know what else we got on Thursday?
Is our D&D
Holy hell,
thing.
we are terrible at promoting our specials, but yeah, the plan is to do Star Wars Time Show Dungeons and Dragons Extravaganza this Thursday, 5 p.
Yes, so that will also be happening for me on Thursday. So Thursday I have a 3-hour home walkthrough, meetings, and then Star Wars D&D. And then Friday I get kind of a day off. And then Saturday is the XFL championship game in San Antonio. All right. So I'll be going there. And then, we close on our new house Thursday of next week. And then on Wednesday, we have our final walkthrough.
You're literally doing money in, money out, right? Like you got the money in, then the money's going right out. That's awesome.
Yep. So my last, it's a lot of very condensed schedule for the next 2 weeks for
actually the show we're probably going to miss an episode coming up, but we'll talk more about that next week, because I'm leaving, Nick's leaving, all sorts of shit going on. I'm building decks, I'm building basement floors, my toys are getting smashed together from gravity. They're probably all trashed at this point, but Nick, it's time for the top 5 Star Wars fan featured artists. We do it every week throughout the week. If you want to get in the mix to try to make the top 5, your destination is at Star Wars Time Show on Instagram. That's right. any of your Star Wars content, tag us, add tag Star Wars Time Show, then use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. I'll check those out every morning as I'm taking a dump, and I'll feature some. And then on Mondays, usually Nick will curate the list and pick his top 5, which brings us to today's winners. Everyone's a winner, but these are this week's winners.
Yeah, that's right. So first up in the top 5 this week is at Darth Dondada.
I think you put him in last week, didn't you?
I did. He did. I don't remember if it was last week.
Dude,
but
dude's on a tear right now.
Yeah,
the dude is on a tear. There's no doubt about it. Nick, I picked this one. I guess I should talk since I picked him. I love the forced perspective on Bo and how everyone else is washed out. It really laser focuses your eye on her, and it's kind of a scene recreation from season 3.
Yeah, I mean it was a fantastic way to put Bo front and center as she was in Mando season 3. I think she has probably taken over the mantle as the lead character of that series, at least for the time being. We'll see what happens in season 4, but obviously season 3 was heavy focus on Bo, and I love kind of having her former Mando squad in the background as they rededicate herself to her, and then having Din kind of in that mid-ground setting where he's always kind of been hey, I'm on your side, but I think we may need to bust some heads here to make sure everybody's in line. So big fan of this shot, big fan of Bo-Katan, and seeing where she goes in season 4.
That's right. So. At Darth Don Dada on Instagram.
Don Dada. And
speaking of your lady, how about this one?
This one's sick. This one here is from Bright Status Media.
I fucking love this shot, man. That backlight is something else.
It's sick. So what we see is Bo-Katan again, except there's nobody else in the shot. It's how it should be. Only Bo-Katan for the 2%ers, right? The 2%ers.
Yeah. Did you finally go check out? Did you see her clip?
I saw the video. I did see the clip. It was funny. It was good stuff. But it's Bo-Katan in all her glory, whipping the full Night Owl get up, both pistols drawn, and like you said, this red backlight really kind of
everything,
makes
man.
her pop.
And Trevor has tried to say this before in times you're out. He tends to critique a bit more in a nice way. I actually think it's a service for people. But backlight is everything. In all forms of photography, but especially in toy photography, it just sharpens the figure, it kind of edges it out, makes it pop, and then you splash in a little atmosphere like it looks like Bright Status did, and it's an all-around great portrait. I mean, I love this thing. I was like, damn, I wish when I had my bow out, I shot her like this. I did more headshots, but this is my type of photography these days if I can ever get my basement back in order, which is probably going to be at least another month or 2.
Yeah. If I was a toy photographer and I saw a shot like this and I was like, man, I could pull this off. Because like you said, and like you've always kind of pointed to in toy photography, even back when you were heavily into the scene and out in the yard a lot, it's the portrait shots are really kind of what got you into it, and a good one like this is really
low stress.
It really just
let the figure and let the light shine. That's what I'm all
do
about.
The
there you go, buddy.
There you go. So good stuff there at Bright Status Media. I believe that's a first-time feature as well.
Think so
congratulations. Next up, our good buddy.
That's right.
At Work More or Less. And he's given us an awesome scene recreation of the iconic trench run from A New Hope. So, what we see, and the perspective here is fun because you're kind of seeing this as almost like a camera trailing this TIE fighter into the trench as it's following Red 5 down into this trench. You see explosions on the surface of the Death Star.
Everything in this shot's practical, by the way. Even the trench.
That almost looks like a burnt marshmallow.
It's the I don't know if you've seen the. Yes, it's the cotton balls that are painted, and then you put a light underneath them. Yep.
Yeah. No, I love the shot. I love the perspective. And it's just a great scene recreation from one of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars history.
What Jason's been doing at work, more or less, for those that don't know him, but he doesn't post as much as he used to, kind of like me, but he at least gets to it, I'd say, once a month. But what he's doing, Nick, he's kind of showing people with these shots how to do crazy looking effects practically. So like I said, this trench is all practical. It looks endless because he's using mirrors. So not only does At Work more or less provide great looking toy art, he also gives you detailed tutorials on how to achieve some of these effects. So I mean, he's definitely a stalwart in the community. He's one of the Jedi Masters trying to teach the younglings, if you will.
Yeah. So, hey, that's the best kind of follow out there.
Too bad he's probably watching Maz's Toy Box stream right now, because they do a toy stream every Tuesday at 6, and I think that's where half our audience is.
Wow, look at that!
They all left us.
Pure competition.
Yep, they all left us.
Pure competition. But you know what? We love Jason. We love the work that he does, so make sure to give him a follow at Work More or Less. Next up in this here top 5 is Trini Action Figure Photos. This is also another first-time feature, I believe, and what we see here is Darth Vader. He looks, I don't know if he's on Dagobah, but he's definitely on like a more swampy kind of tropical planet. And he's lifting kind of like almost what his son did on Dagobah, right?
Tried to do. I mean, remember, Luke couldn't do it. Yoda did it. Yeah. So he's doing the Yoda move on Dagobah, but instead of an X-Wing, he's got a standard TIE fighter. And that's very Nick, true. I think, and we'd probably have to go to Trini Action Figure Photos page, which I don't feel like doing because I'm lazy, but I think this is a comic book or an art piece recreation using toys.
Gotcha. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful shot. I mean, I love how he's it looks like he probably put like the moss dripping down from the TIE fighter on there. I love the flora in the background.
Probably aquarium props.
The whole setup is just awesome and really kind of sells this tropical swamp-like planet that like Vader somehow like crashed onto. Now he's got to find his way out. Awesome.
I dug this. I think Trini's a first, like a first feature and then a first top 5. So when that happens, you put out some quality art that make these two dopes smile. So congratulations.
That's right. Congratulations at Trini Action Figure Photos on Instagram. Next up, we have
this is so cool.
The good old Luke Skywalker to close out. This is at visual_approach_photo. Visual Approach is one of our favorites here for sure. And this is showing, like, we've seen Luke take down an ATST before.
Yeah. This is how you do it, Cal. You don't just sit there and whack at its feet like a little pussy.
Yeah, you jump up and you cut it completely in half, one stroke with your lightsaber. You cut it in half so bad that the pilot is still in it and doesn't even know what's happening. Dude, look at it.
Do you see the pilot's face? Like, he even put a reaction on the pilot's face. That's how much. That's how deep Sean went here. So I'll give you some insights. That chicken walker, he literally split that in half practically. Like I believe he used the Dremel to cut that. Actually, he cut that fucker in half for this shot. Did the effects to make it look like hot laser went through it, so it's that molten metal look. And he even digitally manipulated the driver's face to, as you noticed, to give him a reaction. It's just like Visual Approach Photos. If you just look at all the little nuance, you realize like how big of a genius he is with practical effects. Because that background is a printed paper, so you got printed paper background, a practically split at ST, and then of course Luke in his I think that's the Mandoverse garb. But it just, just the fact that he had this idea, that's what I mean. That's what I've always lacked in this hobby, is the creativity to execute, and that's why Visual Approach is one of the juggernauts out there.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a top of the barrel type of guy here. So good stuff from at visual_approach_photo. Very well done. That's the end of the top 5. And that's the end of our show for this week. So Matt, thank you for that awesome interview that you guys had at the beginning of the show while I was out.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm. We should have them every month because they bring a crowd. There's no doubt about it. We had the most people ever when they were here watching the show. I mean, it got up over 100. I'm someone that still thinks we should be in the thousands or 5 digits, 6 digits. But hey, I'm a narcissist. But it was nice. They were fellow fans, but. You gotta understand, like this micro Galaxy Squadron line that Jazzwares launched last year, it has become like the obsession. I mean, so these guys are making waves and they're quite popular these days. So it is a nice get by Spa Spencer, even though I didn't necessarily request it. I'll give him credit on that one. It definitely brought an audience. So hey, if you manage to stick around, if you're the Jazzware or the micro Galaxy Squad crew. And you liked what you saw with the, Nick and I talking Visions and some Filoni movie and Thrawn's death, then please sub up, hit the like button, leave a comment, head on over to StarWarsTime.net, check us out on the internet, maybe sub to the podcast platforms, because the shows we do live, they always get ported to podcasts a day later. So if you don't like looking at our goofy faces, you can always listen to us on a podcast platform of your choice. So best place to do that, if you're new, StarWarsTime.net. All right? There's always time for Star Wars time. Hopefully you learned that today if you're new here. If not, go to hell. That's what we like to say here. All right, my friends, I'm beat. That was about a 3-hour shift for me. I haven't eaten dinner yet. It's almost 8 o'clock. Time to get the family ramped down. I've been bad dad. So as I like to say, if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you.